Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and today we're back with the Hōrai edition, the absolute pinnacle edition, the peak, by far the greatest arc throughout the amazing story that is Hell's Paradise. I just want to thank everyone before we do move forward for 150,000 subs and all of the support over the past few weeks here on the channel. It's been, beyond insane to me that I'm still somehow growing at this point. Also, once I finish this last arc in the story, which is the next one after this, obviously, the entire story will be up on Patreon before the next arc is even here up on YouTube, so if you want to go and join Patreon and peep that out, then go and do that, as it'll be down in the description below. But either way, when it comes to Hell's Paradise's Hōrai arc here, it takes a turn for the absolutely mental. It initially focuses on the alliance of the surviving criminals and executioners invading Horai to retrieve the Elixir of Life and escape the island. However, everything changes after Lord Tensen anticipates their arrival. Plus, oh my god, there is so much more that happens, so get ready, sit back, grab a bag of popcorn and a full fridge of supplies, subscribe if you haven't already because you need me in your life, push this video to 5k likes, and let's get into the Hōrai arc from Hell's Paradise. But before we go any further, I'm excited to say that this video has been sponsored by Swipe mousepads. And, you guys actually need these. I didn't even realize that I did it first, because to be honest, I don't really want to push something to you guys that I don't really care about. But this dope small company specializes in a variety of anime and gaming based pads made to rizz up your setup. And oh my lord, they're nice. The feel makes you want to sleep on them. They're nice and thick. If you spill your drink, it doesn't soak in. The water resistance is god tier. The stitching is seamless. They don't seem to wear out quickly. And what's even cooler is that they've got an anime based artist currently working on a bunch more pads for all of us weebs. So if you guys do need to get a new mouse pad, and you do, then make sure you check out Swipe mousepads through my link in the description or the top comment down below, and use code VOLO to get 15% off on your order overall. I really do recommend these bad boys. I used to run through a mouse pad every few months with the amount of editing that I do and the moving around and stuff, but these are actually them and they just look that good. Plus, what's even cooler is that me and Swipe are looking to work together in the future with a bunch of different things if stuff goes well here. So honestly, I truly do mean it. Go check them out through my link or the top comment down below and use code VOLO to get 15% off on your order, because these mouse pads are actually super high quality and I'd love to work with them again in the future and help grow their brand in general and stuff. But anyway, enough of that, enough of me rambling on about these mouse pads and everything. Back to the video for now. So, after Mei does her thing, Fuchi interprets for the group and begins explaining the plan they're about to undergo. From what they can learn, Horai is designed to be a massive fortress modelled of China's Ipang Palace, and these sea monsters prevent anything from leaving the island. However, Mei reveals that Horai contains numerous ships and an underground floodgate that allows departure along a safe current. So their mission is to avoid confrontation, acquire the elixir, and steal a ship to make it back home on. Gabimaru tells them that according to Mei, the Tan elixir is located in a laboratory, but the palace's interior is constantly changing. With time drawing closer to the moment they invade enemy territory, Shion pulls Gabimaru and Yuzuriha over to have them instruct the group in the art of espionage using Dao. Looking like an absolute babe with these specs on, Yuzuriha teaches the group on how they're to mask their presence by suppressing their Dao. Afterwards, Gabimaru also nerded out teaches his lesson in using Dao against their opponents. After the training was over, everyone is divided into two teams. The escape route team, made up of Big G, Shion, Narugai, Toma, Mei, and Fuchi, and the elixir retrieval team, made up of the other three. So while the three powerhouses are off doing their thing sourcing the elixir, the escape team needs to find the boats and open the floodgates. Realizing that Mei has wanted to leave the island for a while now, Gentetsusai suggests that they let her depart alone and not wait for the elixir team. However, Gabimaru asks Mei if there's anything she desired to do before leaving the island. Surprisingly, Mei tells him that she actually wished to meet with Rien and Jofuku again to ask them why they changed from how they were before then escaping. Remembering his wife's words to him about valuing every day and living a decent life, Gabimaru promises to fulfill Mei's wish no matter what. At a similar time inside of Hōrai, Daofa greets Chobei at the end of the Doshi ritual ceremony, but is stopped by Jufa. He cruelly tells the other Tensen that there is no need to communicate with livestock, and just breathing the same air makes him feel ill. Angered by his presence, Jufa lashes out at Chobei, who easily manages to block the strike. Realizing just how much stronger he's become, Chobei tells the immortal that he should have finished him off in the last fight, because now he can see through all of his moves. Stopping them from further escalating, Rien orders Jufa to behave himself and has Chobei follow him to his laboratory so that he can study his Dao. As the two walk and talk, Chobei notices that he is starting to get used to this new power, but after looking at Rien, senses that his Tao is on a completely different level. Initially, he was planning on escaping as quickly as possible and running back to Toma. However, after seeing the difference in strength, decides to stick around in case he can find some sort of weakness. Once entering the laboratory, we see a massive Watan Hua flower, which is called a banko. These flowers don't allow them to store extra tan, but unlike these smaller flowers, it can process a far greater quality of tan all in one go. The reason tan can't be preserved is because over time, Tao eats away at that of the human's life force. Eventually, and just like the human, the plant will soon wither before it can produce the perfect quality tan. This is why Rien desires Chobei's rare Tao to complete his research. Again with Yuki referring to something from our world here, this Banko, or Pangu in Chinese, is an entity that appears in prominent creation myth. In this creation myth, it explains that in a world of nothingness, Banko was the giant who emerged from his egg, separated yin and yang with his axe, elevated the sky above the earth, and upon his death, turned himself into the sun, moon, landscape, weather, and animals. Pretty much, it's the god of earth in this creation myth, and possibly even something similar in Hell's Paradise. Meanwhile, the Elixir retrieval team infiltrates Horai and once safely landing on the roofs, signals to the others that the area is clear to enter. Scary notices that their plan is moving quickly and wonders if it's truly time for the mission to come to an end. Pulling up his mask, Gabimaru states that they always knew they were on a timer, so yes, everyone will leave this island tonight. Flashing back to the preparation, Fuchi breaks down Mei's explanation and gives out a basic layout of the castle. He reveals that each Tensen has a sanctuary of their own, and the elixir and the escape ship are most likely in the center area. Popping in, Mei tells us who is in each area of the castle. In her eyes, the elixir is most likely with Rien in the laboratory. Jufa and Daofa will be between the old silly inside of the Bochujutsu Sanctum, the Taisoku Sanctum is the domain of Zujin, Shuitsu Sanctum is the meditation domain ruled by Gufa, and finally, the Shuten Sanctum run by Mudan, but, you know, that man ain't around anymore, so there's probably no one there, for the time being at least. She also states that since the Banko flower droops at night, Rien will not be in the temple conducting research. Instead, he'll most likely move to the main residence where Jofuku resides, making it possible to also avoid running into him after securing the elixir. Gabimaru then explains that he and Yuzuriha will land atop the inner gate and will survey the layout of the castle using their Tao sensory. In the present, Sagiri notices a dreadfully sinister amount of Tao coming from the palace and starts to falter. Gabi and Yuzuriha though console her, stating that it doesn't bother them as they're already used to it. Using what they learned in preparation for this mission, both Gabi and Yuzuriha take out all of the guards while constantly keeping their Tao suppressed, not to alert anyone. After taking out all of the doshi, the Elixir retrieval team successfully make it through the first part of their predetermined plan and enter the castle. Almost instantly after getting inside, they make it into the supposed room with the elixir. Gabi opens the door and senses the layout of the room, but suddenly sees Tao forming an entity in the middle. Surprised that someone knew he was there, the Tao silhouette is revealed to be Rien, who had the same idea of suppressing his energy. If you ain't subscribed yet, by the way, just do it. Stepping forth, Mei asks her younger brother how he knew of their arrival. Rien commends them for their attempt, but reveals that Chobei has already informed them that the humans would be coming to invade the palace, and agreed to keep track of their arrival by sensing their Tao on one condition. This is just due to the fact that after hurting his brother in their last battle, Chobei was able to track his exact location, and because, you know, Toma is with the group, he probably knows where the group is. Just like when he went up against Zujin, Gabimaru finds himself in trouble due to Ran possessing the water attribute, which hinders his fire attribute. The plan, if they bumped into an enemy with a stronger attribute, was to run, as if they try fighting with such a heavy debuff, they've got no chance. Hopping into a JoJo-esque pose, Ran becomes delighted to see Mei once again and begs her to return back to their side, explaining that they no longer need to follow the outer way of Tao since they have completed their research in creating the elixir. Utterly shocked, Gabimaru asks for more info on what he just said. Obviously, because of the fact that the Tensen discovered Chobei, they feel that with his cooperation, they'll easily be able to create a potent enough elixir. All they need to do now is produce more tan that has a considerable quantity of exceptional material. That's why, for this exact reason, Rien has started the rite of just consumption, as the end is indeed coming near. Despite his plea, Mei refuses and says that she only wishes to say goodbye to everyone. To her now, it's obvious that she's different to them, but dying is sad. Instead, she came to say goodbye before leaving the island with everyone else. Disappointed, Rien states that the rite of just consumption would have to continue and she can become another offering. After Sagiri asks what he meant, Rien explains that it was a ritual to capture and offer the humans to the Grand Master. Over with the boat squad, Gentetsusai, Fuchi and Toma get separated from Shion and Narugai due to a massive cloud of mist that obscures their vision. Pushing forward either way, the three then bump into Daofa and Jufa while Shion and Narugai are approached by Zujin for a second time. Knowing that their plan to avoid Lord Tensen has failed, the group decide to move on to their second plan, which is just straight up hands, giving everything they've got because it's not like they're ever going to outrun these fiends. Not phased, our boy announces to Rien that they won't give up without a fight, and instead they're going to beat him down and say goodbye to this island. Seeing as how the ritual has already begun, Rien prepares to let loose, knowing that all they need now is sacrifices. So I just want you to all think back to the pod analogy I used in one of the earlier videos, I'm pretty sure it was the very first video, and how it was literally shown to us on the panels themselves. Now think about like how what they're doing with this elixir is simply another form of this old school Japanese curse. They're sticking all of these venomous beasts into the island, which is literally shaped like a pot, in the hopes that they can procure a vial of immortality juice. I don't know, it's just something that clicked in my head right now, but I love how early on it's foreshadowed that this exact thing would happen, with Chobei figuring out that the island is kind of like a bowl. Knowing that even though he's going up against someone with an unfair advantage, Gabimaru tells Sagiri and Mei to go search for the elixir while he and Yuzuriha hold off the creature. However, Mei warns him that they are not in Rien's temple, shocking Gabimaru. Sensing the kick coming at him from behind though, he quickly dodges and jumps back before flying forth at the immortal trying to land a kick himself, but Rien comfortably weaves out of the way. Hopping into an unrealistically messed up pose, Rien confirms his sister's comments as he had reconstructed the palace before they arrived. Apparently the Tao of inorganic material was even easier to manipulate than that of living creatures. Constructing buildings and renovating are all tasks that actually fall to Rien, so it's even easier for him to control that than others. With that, he creates some spikes from the floor that trap Mei, leaving her with nowhere to run as he slowly closes in on her. Needing to protect Mei, Gabimaru decides to fight, but is unable to harm him due to not possessing the right attribute. Yuzuriha sees an opening to attack and throws a Tao-imbued kunai. However, the kunai bounces off his body due to Rien cloaking himself in a Tao-like armor. Getting caught off guard, Rien slaps him with a fat double kick that pushes both Gabi and Yuzuriha back. Observing his Tao, Gabimaru can visibly see the thick layer of armor protecting him from any attacks. The crazy thing about Rien's armor is that unlike traditional armor that has holes under the armpits and other vital spots where you have to move obviously, Rien has no gaps at all to exploit. It's almost as if his Tao and muscles are in perfect harmony, flesh perfected. Needing to force an opening, Gabi re-enters the battle and fights Rien vertically while they both stand on a bunch of massive pillars. Rien jumps at Gabi, kicking away a massive chunk of his pillar. However, our man uses this to his advantage as he picks up the rocks and activates Ninpo Stone Storm, sending them rocketing back at the Immortal. Not phased due to the elemental diff, Rien just returns the ability by kicking them back at Gabi, causing them to drop to the ground. Gabi then tells Yuzuriha that it was time to begin their next strategy. Confused after hearing this, Rien examines his Tao and notices that nothing has even changed, so he can't see how things would also change in the battle. Rien then readies himself to fight Gabimaru, who's now closing in. However, Gabi then suddenly vanishes from his sight before reappearing and landing a fat blow that sends the Immortal tumbling across the sanctuary. So, back before the mission began, Gabimaru explained that Tao was like a current of water flowing around one's body. It's even tangible, allowing the user to change the speed, size, and strength. The attribute you've got determines which direction your energy flows. You normally have ways of combating opposite attributes. Sadly though, the Tao of the current Lord Tensens are so massive that the normal rules do not apply. Because of this, Gabimaru theorizes a 3-step process to use the enemy's Tao against them. Firstly, you weaken your own energy around a specific part of your body to take in their Tao. Then, you ride the current so that the boost of Tao spinning around your body doesn't damage you, but floats around till you can reverse its polarity and send it straight back at the opponent. In the present, Gabimaru smashes Rien into the ground by redirecting the Tensen's Tao. He syncs his breathing with Rien and falls into place between tranquility and serenity, finding the middle ground and allowing him to ward off any incoming blows. Realizing that even getting grazed by one of the Immortal's attacks would be brutal, he considers starting the second step to his plan, but decides to hold off for now. Slowly healing himself, Rien becomes impressed by Gabimaru's skill with Tao. He explains that the thick clouds of mist tend to activate a person's hidden powers when they arrive, yet he's just something else. Gabi in his eyes possesses sheer talent. However, Gabimaru disagrees with this comment, stating that everything that has happened was because of everyone's effort and the sacrifices they've made along the way for the sole purpose of defeating the Lord Tensens. While Rien is left shocked with Gabi's pure determination, Scary quickly frees Mei from the restraint and lets the others know they're gonna head for the elixir. Screaming at them to behave themselves though, Rien swings around and attempts to stop them, but is stopped himself by Gabimaru, who yells at the others to get it done. Still trying to get past, Rien quickly figures that Gabi's using his own Dao against him and decides to suppress it, yet as soon as he does, Yuzuriha comes in and slices the plant man in two. Darting forth once more, she goes to finish the job, but is warned by Gabi to stop. Rien, standing there and impressed with the skills of his enemies, decides that in light of the ritual, he is not allowed to toy with them. His body then suddenly begins turning into a bunch of flowers and vines before exploding into his four-armed Kishikai state. Elsewhere, Rien sits in the ritual circle and reviews the names of the human invaders given by Chobei. With Zujin encountering Shion and Nirugai, Rien believes that he holds the advantage since Shion's Wood Dao will have no effect against Zujin's Water Dao, and Nirugai isn't able to use hers yet. Still, he does sense a great deal of rage coming from them and knows that anger can greatly increase someone's ability. Also, at a similar time, Gentetsusai and Fuchi face Daofa and Jufa. Rien believes that his team will defeat them with ease as neither of their opponents have refined their Dao. Though, he does take note of Gabimaru as he can sense that they need to be extremely careful with him. After he finally finishes his review, Rien presents the completed Elixir of Life to Jofuku and announces that once they defeat the human invaders, they will be ready to depart to the mainland to continue with the ultimate plan. Meanwhile, the assignment from the second landing party become exhausted after travelling so far in such a short amount of time. After making it to the Tan Pit, all of them are disgusted and disheartened once they find what remains of Tenza and Genji. Furious at the fact that more of his close friends have died before he was able to save them, Shugen states that they have to make for Hōrai now. Once there, everyone, the hermit and the convicts will be eviscerated. Having also stolen one of the special flutes the Doshi used to control the Monshin, Shugen blows it and commands them to carry him and his crew to Hōrai at once. Back over with Gabi and remembering his past discussion on how if the enemy manages to redirect its tower during the fight, it'll be impossible to win, Gabimaru comes up with the idea of boosting Yuzuriha's Dao-imbued weapons with his own to defeat Lord Tensen. Back in the fight, Gabi sees Rien going into attack and prepares to use the same plan of redirecting his Dao. However, he and Yuzuriha are completely dumbfounded when a single punch from the immortal Kishikai state blows apart the surroundings while also knocking them back. Following up, Rien absolutely pummels the life out of Yuzuriha and Gabi, sending our boy shooting outside of the building and causing Yuzuriha to drop to her knees, severely injured. Elsewhere, Sagiri and Mei run throughout the palace, searching for the laboratory. Mei notices the loud noises coming from the Doan temple and becomes worried for their allies. Sagiri assures Mei that Gabimaru will be alright since he has a backup plan, but even still, the idea of him following through with that plan worries her. Taking things up a level, the Kishikai monster knees Gabi, causing massive damage before following up and smashing him into the ground. Disappointed in how easily he's being beaten, Gabi takes note of how unlike the previous Kishikais they've seen, Rien's mind is still in control, allowing him to perform his techniques to an even higher degree. Despite her past warnings that when push comes to shove, she'll dip out of the fight, Yuzuriha lets loose her rope ability to grab her teammates in an attempt to try and survive. However, Rien catches up to them, and as she realizes that if she doesn't block, it's the end for her, Gabimaru manages to block the attack just in time. Having had enough with this pathetic cockroach of a human, Rien throws away any idea of using Gabimaru for Tan and instead smashes down, breaking his guard and seemingly ending our man's journey home. To top it off, Rien then throws Gabi into a pillar, leaving him there to live out his final moments. Lying there and remembering all of the times Gabi had said that his life takes priority and that he wouldn't die until he makes it home, he again reiterates that thought, as man is not about to end it all. No. Pricking his finger with one of them sneaky old flowers, the young man chooses to sacrifice whatever it takes in order to be back with the one that he loves. Regaining his footing, Gabimaru stands back up, somehow fully healed, while revealing his black eye and the vine-like patterns that stretch out over the left side of his face. So, the reason that Gabi can actually achieve this state and not just bloom into a bunch of flowers like everyone else who's been stung is for a very specific reason. Pretty much, if only a little bit of tan makes it into the body, it has the possibility to balance out, making someone the same as Tensen. Gabimaru, who had overheard this explanation, got everyone to accompany him to Mudan's pile of bloomed flowers. He then retrieved one of the flower's stingers and planned to receive the same power as Chobei by overcoming the arborification, but at that time Mei objected to doing so just due to how dangerous the risks are. However, Gabimaru reveals that he was already aware of how Chobei managed to accomplish this feat and is willing to take these risks. What separates Chobei from everyone else is that he has something to fight for besides himself. So when he's down on his luck, he finds the strength to defy death no matter what because he's got to get back to his brother. Back with the girls now, Sigiri becomes shocked after only just learning about part 2 of Gabimaru's plan, but knows that he is willing to do anything in the hopes of returning back to his wife. Over in the battle, Gabimaru dodges out of the way of a few thundering punches and kicks. Focusing himself, Gabi knows that he needs to take out Rien before the flowers take over his body. Even still, he notices that Rien's attacks are starting to become slower as he consumes more Dao throughout the battle. Yuzuriha, who's still recovering from the previous battle, tells Gabi that he ain't normal no matter what happens. Even if he does die, he doesn't stop pushing forward, all for the hopes of seeing someone that might not even exist. Turning and looking at her, Gabi explains that yeah, he might be crazy, but there's only some places idiots can truly reach. Someone who keeps a cool head and thinks logically just won't survive. There's times where you've just got to let loose. He compliments Yuzuriha as someone who pushes people away on the off chance that they might make her an idiot. Hearing this, she becomes encouraged by Gabi to step forth despite her wounds and fight with her friend in a dance of death. Knowing that his fire Dao has no effect on Rien's water, Gabimaru tells Yuzuriha that they need to rely on her earth affinity to defeat him. Needing to make an opening for her, Gabi starts off by activating his ascetic form and using Ninpo, demonic firebug, to throw a burst of fire at Rien. The Immortal easily extinguishes the flames, but Gabi slides in next to him and activates Ninpo, Burning Bridge, sending a fireball rocketing towards Rien's face. Slashing his foot back, Rien comfortably dissipates the flames from around him, yet as he does so, Yuzuriha makes her move and latches onto him with her mucus strings. Thinking that's good enough to finish him off, Gabimaru heads in and dodges an attack Rien makes to his tendon. He then uses Ninpo Ascetic Blaze in an attempt to scorch the creature, but as he looks down at his work, sees a hand reach through and toss him towards Yuzuriha. Slightly impressed, Rien says that even with this shame of theirs, it's only a futile struggle that's prolonging the inevitable, and yet, it's beautiful to behold. Hearing Gabi talk some smack, Rien then prepares himself for the final bout and tells them to show him everything they have. Okay, so like I hate to do this, but I'm not going to hit you with a 30 seconds of just like one-page techniques over and over and over again. It's fire what's going on right here, right now, boys, okay? Well, but reigniting the battle, the two shinobi then unleash their various ninjutsu techniques in combination with each other. Rien somehow manages to block every single ability and pushes them off, but suddenly notices that his body has begun to crack. With the Immortal randomly confused with what's just happened, Gabimaru reveals that his earlier attack was meant to overstimulate Rien in order to make him lose his sense of judgment and timing. Throughout the fight, they were able to stall for enough time, with Rien like not knowing what's going on, to have the Kishikai state use up all of its Dao. Suddenly, Rien's Kishikai form explodes, revealing his weakened and reforming states, giving Gabimaru and Yuzuriha a perfect opening to attack. As the two rush in, Yuzuriha starts to feel pain coming from her wound, but tries to endure it until they can defeat Rien. Rising back up in front of them, Gabimaru sees that Rien had managed to cancel out his form before completely running out of Dao. While changing genders, Rien swipes at Gabi, making it obvious to the ninja that he's trying to recover his lost Dao by cycling between yin and yang. He screams out to Yuzuriha to use her ability before he recovers, and hearing this, Rien reaches out, clutching down on Gabi's shoulder, telling him that it's impossible. He knows that the wound she received earlier is extremely deep, and should she continue with her plan, she will die. Stopping in her tracks, Yuzuriha agrees with Rien's statement and throws her kunai away. Suddenly spinning around though, the queen catches her weapon and sparks up her Dao, as it's time to follow through with what she came here to do. Slapping his hands together, the Immortal goes on the defense by forming a field of massive spikes in an attempt to take Yuzuriha down before she reaches him. Putting out his hand, Gabi helps Yuzuriha avoid the spikes by flicking her up into the air. She then jumps down off the ceiling, and as she perceives the remaining Dao inside Rien's tendon, annihilates it with the Earth Affinity infused kunai. With the first battle here coming to an end, the immortal being then starts to crumble away, calling out for his brother during his pitiful demise. Well, what a battle as well. Like, that was gangster, and that's only the beginning of like this entire arc. Oh, you're not ready. This whole arc is just that after like story after era. Oh, it's just, oh my god, so good. After watching Rien fully turn into a bunch of foliage now, Yuzuriha warns Gabimaru about the arborification process eventually taking over his body. Still, in his eyes, he knows that he had no other options if he wanted to see his wife again. He then suggests that they catch up to Sagiri and Mei, but Yuzuriha, needing to rest, tells him to leave without her. Before leaving, Gabimaru tells Yuzuriha that he'll be waiting for her at the boat, and also once again thanks her for saving his life when they first encountered each other on the island. But man, this moment always gets my freaking tear ducts rolling. After being alone, Yuzuriha unbuttons her dress and removes the mucus protecting the wound she received earlier. Thinking to herself, she finds it sad that she never showed her heart to anyone. Till the end, she remained the same, always going at it alone, whether that be life or death. Knowing that her life was at risk, Yuzuriha apologized to her deceased sister, Saya. She really tried to live for both of them, but this here is the end of the road. Remembering what she said to Senta when he passed, she tells herself those same words. When it hurts, go ahead and think about whatever you want. A pet cat maybe? A lover you left behind? Your family? Pass on with that beautiful vision. Yuzuriha then faints with a smile on her face after thinking about Saya as her final thoughts. Damn, and that hurts. I'm sorry I had to blow some stuff there throughout like that battle and everything as well. Yeah, Yuki just had to calm down. I don't know why he had to take her top off and everything. But yeah, that obviously that just hurts my soul, and it was some brilliant writing on Yuki's behalf. But I can't wait to, even get further into the story right here. Everything ties up and finishes so well. Nearby, while Gabimaru runs, he remembers the plan that they needed at least 5 people of their group to help sail one of the underground ships and goes to push forth to the temple. However, he stops still, dropping to the ground as the effects of the vines spread through his body. Beginning to crawl now, he remembers Yuzuriha's words on how the more he regenerates, the quicker the vines will take hold. Thinking of this and the look she'd have on her face if she saw him now, he fully collapses before losing consciousness. Moments earlier though, over in the, the cheeky Bocchi Jutsu chamber, if you know what I mean, the sanctum now, Gen Tetsusai and Fuchi, Majis, and Toma encountered Jufa, Daofa, and the bandit himself, Chobei. Seeing his brother, Chobei puts out his hand and informs Toma that Lord Tensen has agreed to make them immortal. All he has to do now is join them. Hearing this, Big Gen Tetsusai tells Toma to leave and rejoin his brother, as he doesn't think that them gaining one more wimp is going to even out the odds. I love how confident Gen Tetsusai is. After saying goodbye, Toma walks up the stairs to finally see his brother for the first time in days. Instantly, as the boys see each other, they break out in a gleeful smile and slash at the 2 immortals standing next to them. The creatures try to retaliate, but the boys are able to overcome the monsters and send them tumbling down the stairs. Proudly standing there, Chobei tells his bro that he was slow on the uptake, but can already sense that he's coming to his own. The reason that Toma knew what was going on is because they have their hair done in a specific way with one, side being tied. I just thought that was a cool, aspect done into the story that you can kind of see when they're lying between each other, one of those is done up. But yeah, continuing on. With a fat smile on his face, he thanks both Gen Tetsusai and Fuchi for keeping his brother safe, and shows his gratitude by having them take on Daofa, while they take on the other immortal themselves. Gen Tetsusai and Fuchi then watch in shock as Daofa regenerates from the previous attack and expresses her disappointment in Chobei's betrayal. Getting the babe's attention, Gen Tetsusai points his blade towards her and asks if he wanted him to take away the pain. Over the other side of the room, the bros then prepare to fight Jufa, who, after recovering, becomes enraged at the fact that these people attacked Daofa. So, let the rematch begin from, beforehand, obviously. Just like last time, Jufa believes that nothing is going to change no matter how much they try. Dashing in, the brothers lay down a plethora of strikes that the immortal manages to fend off. Dropping down onto the floor, Toma jumps off Chobei's back and manages to land an attack on Jufa. However, he actually uses this to catch Toma off guard and almost hits him with a volley of energy balls. Having been pulled to the side in time by his brother though, the two then re-engage in a close combat duel, slashing at the immortal and slowly beginning to push him back. Unable to stop the force of the brothers from pushing him back, Toma darts in close and manages to deal a significant strike to the monster's face, making it realise that this battle is the complete opposite to last time. Just like in the battle with Rien, he then angrily decides to ignore the ritual and take out the 2 brothers. Meanwhile, on the floor down below, Gen Tetsusai explodes after seeing just how beautiful Daofa truly is. After taking a compliment from Fuchi, she dashes at Gantetsuzai and attacks him with a strong punch before following up and kicking him in the head, sending him crashing towards a pillar. She jokes that hearing some old creep gawk over her makes the skin on her body crawl, even though like she's literally 1,000 years old. Anyway, calling Fuchi cute though, she offers to partake in a round of, Bojujutsu with our boy. Hey, my brother Fuchi. However, Fuchi cuts her off literally and declines, stating that he's only interested in examining the constructs of her biology. Picking himself back up as well, Big G becomes excited with the idea of spending some quality time with Daofa. Wanting to get down to business and continue with the rite of just consumption, Daofa then bulks up. The boys dart in and slash at her, but the Immortal easily takes control over the battle, comfortably dodging all of their strikes. Jumping up, Daofa lets loose a wave of Dao that pushes out from all around her, flinging our guys across the entire room. Seeing that they can't defeat her by normal means, Fuchi suggests that they formulate a strategy to fight against her ability to use Dao. However, Gantetsuzai screams, frustrated with the notion of Dao, as, having heard the word a million times isn't going to change anything in his eyes, plus he can't even remember half the stuff that goes into actually using this technique. Instead, he just wants to have fun in this battle. He runs at the Immortal, trying his best to take her out, while she simultaneously mocks him for not being able to use Dao. Bro, the amount of times I've said Dao in this video, someone needs to count it up, because it's got to be in the hundreds for sure. Floating up, Daofa lands a simple tap on Gantetsuzai's face, but the resulting blast was like it sent forth a flurry of Dao kicks and punches that left him on the ground immobilized. Dancing around him, relentlessly mocking him, she tells Gantetsuzai to give up. However, Big G just refuses and comments on how she must have had fun toying with humans for the past 1,000 years. After hearing this statement, Daofa loses her smile and expresses that all of this time they've trained to achieve immortality, they lure humans over and over and over for 1,000 years. Yes, yet still, somehow, even now they haven't been able to achieve the perfect immortal bodies. They've all realized it, it's just that if she stops smiling now, she'll completely lose her mind, or maybe, maybe she already has. She then attacks the two with another blast of Dao, and disagrees with Gantetsuzai's statement, saying that the whole process isn't fun at all. Having properly experienced Dao for the first time, Fuchi picks himself up and imagines the breakthroughs he can make to medical science with this knowledge. Also feeling a little different, Gantetsuzai stands up, excited to continue the battle. Initially confused, Daofa is astonished by the enemy's ambitions that causes them to continue fighting, and senses their Tao surging around them. Sprinting at the Immortal now, Daofa launches an invisible projectile towards Gantetsuzai. However, he briefly centers her attack and dodges, shocking the Immortal, who receives a fatal blow from him. Back before they all left the palace, Shion explained to Narugai, Fuchi, and Gantetsuzai that they were unable to sense Dao because they depend too much on their eyes in battle. To use Dao, one must detach themselves from reality and all the body to embrace the sensation. Laying there at the time and not participating in learning, Gantetsuzai explains that he only believes in things that he can cut, while Fuchi explains that he can only accept things he can touch. In the present day, after managing to land his first attack on Daofa, Gantetsuzai figures that he can use this weird technique, only for the Tensen to instantly retaliate, sending him shooting into a pillar while saying that it was probably just luck on their behalf. Fuchi comes in from behind and manages to push her away from Gantetsuzai as he recovers. However, she suddenly appears right in front of him again and hits him with a point-blank attack before grabbing him by the neck and blasting him with another flurry of energy balls. Daofa then drops Fuchi while she comments on how sweet the lengths he was willing to go to in order to help his friends were. Battered and bruised, Fuchi says that Gantetsuzai wasn't his friend, yet in that moment he falls into a memory where he told Big G they weren't friends, but they also weren't so different from each other. This didn't apply to just him as well. All of the executioners at the end of the day are just human, and if they make connections with someone, it leads to genuine feelings just like anyone else. In the short time that they've spent together, he was able to observe that the samurai were no different from the convicts. Everyone is made of skin and bone with an innate desire to live. From the bottom of his little heart, Fuchi wished that Gantetsuzai, along with everyone else, would return home safely, even if they never spoke again after that day. Watching the little man in front of him, just standing there, Gantetsuzai senses that he's in massive danger, and like the mad lad he is, rips out his own freaking eye. Back just before, when he dodged that blast, he knew that he was relying on sensation and not sight. Now though, man's on a completely different level and can perceive everything around him through the use of Dao. He quickly grabs Fuchi and dives out of the way before another volley of energy balls could take them out. Stepping back into the fray, Gantetsuzai screams that every attack she hits him with only increases his strength, and now he's eager to let loose. Flashing back into the past, after our big man Gantetsuzai was defeated by his former master, Turns out our big man's name's actually originally Tetsunosuke, and while he was sitting there, he wondered how his master was able to defeat him despite being an old cripple. Knowing that his pupil wants to learn more, his master explains that the young man has become greedy with wanting to become strong and tells him that he must let go of his strength, then let go of it some more, and he'll finally find everything he wants. Now, thinking on that statement some more, Gentetsusai reiterates that he didn't have a clue what his master meant back then. Yet, and after a life of mistakes, he finally gets it. The more you gain, the harder it is to take a good look at yourself. In the present, Gentetsusai, like the G he is, manages to dodge Dalfar's projectiles and continuously strikes away at her, not giving her a chance to regenerate. However, his attacks are unable to stop her from reviving, as sadly Gentetsusai doesn't have the right attribute to properly take her down. Not wanting the battle to turn into one of attrition, Fuchi knows that only his metal Dao will be able to stop Dalfar from regenerating, and jumps in to grab her so that it subsequently weakens the immortal, allowing Gentetsusai to cut the tendon. With time beginning to slow as Big G swings his blade towards their foe, he asks himself if he should just trust this new sensation. Remembering his master's words again, to stare good and hard at what's left, as in there he'll find everything, Gentetsusai closes his eyes and uses a Dao-infused strike to precisely cut the immortal's tendon, without harming Fuchi, who continued holding her from behind. Meanwhile, over with the bandit himself, Chobei in his own battle prepares to unleash his transformation on Jufa to increase his ability, but is stopped by Toma, who believes that they can defeat him together. Hearing this, the immortal Fang tells them that they are foolish for thinking they stand a chance against him and his sister, to which Chobei explains that no matter where, what, or who they are, he always crushes his opponents with his bro covering the sides. Becoming enraged that the pathetic livestock just won't end this futile battle, the Tensen tells them that the only thing they have in common is the fact that they fight better in pairs. Reaching out his right hand, another suddenly reaches through the opening in the curtain next to him. Down below, it's shown that the body of Dalfar had begun to bloom into a tree-like state with fruit growing on each of its limb-like branches. Apologizing to his girl, Jufa then begins fusing with the other Tensen while stating that together they will obliterate them. So, as a child, Jufa and Dalfar were told that they were special, and that they were born as two parts of a whole. Since then, Jufa developed the urge to protect Dalfar, and always came to Mei for answers. In one specific memory of his, Mei tells him that it was natural for him to care for her since they were partners. The fact that he is able to imagine the pain she feels is perfect proof of that. Empathy is both the root of uneasiness and compassion. Yet, because of what they are, it's inherently harder for them to understand or internalize these thoughts. Sadly though, a change soon started showing itself in Rien after he introduces the 5 Tensen to the Hoko. He explained that they were allowed to use them to replenish their Dao, and assigned them their true training art in an attempt to help them achieve immortality. Both of them were, in my eyes, disgustingly assigned with Botchujutsu, like come on man, they were pretty much family at this point, and it's kind of hard to make them do that. During one of the training sessions, Dalfar expresses her pity and using Hoko to replenish their Dao. Jufa agrees with her, which in turn causes Dalfar to feel happy that he understands exactly how she feels. After a few centuries had passed, Jufa becomes frustrated that the Hoko are on the verge of extinction due to their arborification, and how Rien and Jofuku are not trying to fix the problem. Gufa, which is one of the Tensen I'm pretty sure I hadn't mentioned before, suggested using the humans from the mainland as another source, which, just like Mudan says, if they don't do exactly that, then it's likely they'll deplete their Dao over time and also die. After remembering everything Dalfar had gone through, Jufa becomes angry and slams the table, screaming that everything they've been through has been for nothing. Looking up, he suddenly starts to watch as the Tensen's faces turn into smiling pits of darkness. Fearing what they've become, he starts to question if they've all gone mad. Did the endless training drive them to insanity? Feeling broken inside, he just ponders the thought that maybe it's him and Dalfar that are the crazy ones. Later, he walks down to the floodgates and sees that Mudan and Dalfar are preparing to send out arborified Hoko to lure in humans to the island. Jufa asks his girl if she was okay with doing this, as after all, she had in the past stated that she didn't like treating the Hoko this way. Turning around with a beautiful, open smile on her face, she confirms, answering with a yes, while asking if this was crazy of her. Kneeling down next to her, Jufa puts his arm around Dalfar and tells her that she wasn't crazy. The humans are like the Hoko, lower than the livestock and fit for their use. Wondering if he's indeed crazy at this point, he pushes it to the side, instead thinking that it's the world around them that's gone mad. Sadly, back in the present, with the two finally becoming one and transforming into their Kishikai state, they look down with their own crazy transformation, telling the pathetic humans that they're nothing more than livestock. Damn, and I always feel so bad for Jufar when I first read through there. He just wanted his girl to be happy, so he followed her till the end of the earth, and absolute respect for that, man, but you probably shouldn't have done that. You ruined yourself. Having fused together into their destructive embodiment of love, the duo emit an ear-piercing screech, causing Chobei, Toma, Gentitsusai, and Fuchi to immediately protect their ears. Chobei throws his sword to attack, but misses as the monster flies up, breaking through the ceiling of the palace before ominously floating above them in the night sky. Confused, Fuchi begins to wonder how the monster was able to fly with an unnatural proportion. However, the way it captivates his thoughts makes him feel as though it's the embodiment of love itself. Gentitsusai mocks Chobei's earlier attack, causing our Bandit King to claim that he'll fight Big G next after defeating this monster. Fuchi tells Gentitsusai that they need to administer first aid before he could fight again. However, he refuses and says that his only focus is on defeating the Immortals. Looking at his friend though, Fuchi watches as Gentitsusai starts to uncontrollably laugh. Quickly realizing what's causing it, he sees that one of the spores the monster had sneakily let loose managed to sink into Gentitsusai's neck. Having managed to not get hit himself, he removes the barb and tells the others that they need to get under cover. Chobei knows that he needs to break the stalemate and prepares to jump up and fight the monster. He transforms and sends forth a couple vines that allow him to get a hold of the Immortal. Hanging there, he then morphs his hand into a massive battle axe and cuts Dalfar's tendon with his vines, making him realize that his metal affinity dominates one of the Immortal's wood affinities. Randomly splitting itself in half, the Immortal then sends a lightning-fast barrage towards Chobei, which connects and manages to skewer him. Then, picking it up a notch, the creature boosts itself forwards before using that momentum to send Chobei flying across the area and back through a building. Having watched this, Gentitsusai mocks Chobei once again, while next to him, Toma panics thinking that her brother is in danger. Fuchi calms them down and says that there is no way they could slash the monster in one slice, so in order to defeat it, they have to work together. Big G and the Bandit King exchange some half-assed insults about working with each other, yet as soon as the creature tries to attack them, they turn their anger towards it and deflect the attack. Don't mean to pop in on myself here, but I kind of just realized Fuchi literally replaced Senta as a character with his entirety, except unlike Senta, he isn't afraid to inflict injury on other people. Oh well, he reminds them all here that the enemy is the Kishikai amalgamation in front of them, and that they can focus on fighting each other later if that's what they want to do. Finally stepping forth with everyone now planning to work together, Chobei, Toma, Gentitsusai and Fuchi all vow to win. With all of the others standing behind him, Chobei transforms and blocks the monster's vine attack. Growing some more branches, the Immortal shoots some stingers towards the ground, but the bandit throws himself in front of them to save his bro from being hit. While stuck, dazed, wondering if he can even handle this foe, Chobei reviews the elemental attribute cycle and knows that because of the secret technique he has in store, he's the only one who can actually finish the Immortals. Jufar sprouts an extra vine to attack Chobei, but suddenly it's sliced in half by Toma. He then grabs Fuchi's hand in order to strengthen his metal dowel and darts forth with him to slice Dalfar's tendon. Getting in close, Toma uses Fuchi's momentum and flings him in close enough so that he's able to land a slice on the tendon. Sensing an opportunity, Gentitsusai jumps in to deliver his attack, but accidentally slips and falls into the pool as the monster itself once again flies up into the sky. Standing there, Chobei sees Toma arguing with Gentitsusai and remembers how, throughout their entire life so far, he's never seen this side of him. Throughout their childhood, he was always someone who could only ever follow in someone's footsteps, but now he's noticed that his brother has slowly started to become his own person. Realizing that, they probably should be focused on the battle here, Chobei points everyone's attention up to the newly evolved monster still floating in the sky. Knowing that they can't defeat the monster without destroying both tendons simultaneously, Chobei assigns himself with Gentitsusai in order to kill Jufar with the strategy he has planned, while the leftovers, Toma and Fuchi, deal with Dalfar. Reverting back to his Sympoma state, he asks his brother what he should do now. Chobei though simply punches him in the head, demanding that he make his own decisions now, since he has faith in his brother's abilities. Gentitsusai isn't exactly chill about teaming up with Chobei, and is initially reluctant to listen to his orders, but after the bandit compliments his strength, man gets straight manipulated into fighting with him. Chobei looks over towards the monster and notes that they are similar for the fact that both duos are willing to protect their own. In his eyes though, Toma has grown to the point where he no longer needs protection, and because of that, states that he will rip them both apart so that they can pass on together. Super nice of you, Chobei, to let them die and go to the afterlife together and all. Anyway, skipping back to before the battle began, we see that Rien, while setting up the ritual of right consumption, told Chobei that his brother bears an ill omen. Back in the present time, Chobei, Toma, Gantetsusai, and Fuchi all charge towards the Kishikai monster while constantly fending off a barrage of vines. Turning to the small man, Gantetsusai tells him to give him some cover as he dives forth in an attempt to cut it down. Seeing him get hit directly though by multiple vines, it causes Fuchi to think that the swordsman has almost reached his limit. The monster launches their spores towards Fuchi, but having seen their attack in time, is protected by Toma, who throws his own body in front of it. Needing to step out of the daze that he caught himself in, Toma shakes him around and explains that his Tao is vital in their plan of winning. Jumping up into the sky, Chobei notices that everyone is on their last legs, but this is it, they won't have another chance to win. Claiming that he's ready now, the big man himself manages to sneak under the monster through the water before popping up and sending a massive slash directly up through the immortal, cutting it in half and leaving the others with a perfect opportunity to take it down. Fuchi, Toma, and Chobei then come in from both sides, swinging their attacks towards the immortals. Jufa and Daofa try to reconnect their Kishikai form, but just before they are able to do so, our team successfully destroys the tendon of both immortals. Screaming for her partner, Daofa emerges from the pool, weakened, but is quickly stopped and held in the arms by Fuchi, who tells her just to stop as these are her final moments. Jufa then also climbs out of the water, extremely weakened, and tries to attack Chobei. Since his Tao won't be able to hinder them, Chobei punches himself in the gut and removes 2 bottles of water Tao that he originally planned to use against Gabimaru. He then pours the liquid on Jufa, which almost acts like an acid to stop him from regenerating. Basking in victory, Chobei just tells the creature that he should never have picked a fight with the other brothers. Randomly, Gantetsusai comes in and finishes the job, causing Chobei to think that the man was taking pity on the creature, when in all reality man just wanted to up the KD. In our big brute's head though, his thoughts are slightly different. While remembering Daofa's words from their last battle, he kneels down and places a page from Daofa's body next to Jufa, thanking her for the fun they had throughout this fight. As he slowly dies and tears appear in his eyes, Jufa apologizes to his girl for not being able to protect her. Now appearing as children in a different world, which obviously represents the most sane and happiest time probably in both of their lives, I'd imagine, before all of the weirdities started happening. Either way, the two of them then embrace each other in the afterlife, with Daofa saying that she was glad he was her partner. Back in reality, and with the battle having been won, Fuchi wonders how the others are currently faring. Then, once again, going back to a bit of an earlier time, Sagiri and Mei encounter Gufa, who says that he won't attack them if they don't move from where they are, but also adds that he will absolutely crush them if they even take one step forward. After arriving, Mei pointed out that this was the Rien temple, yet Rien wasn't here, so she just casually asked her fellow immortal where they could have gone. Gufa says that Rien had left not too long ago and he was given the task to guard the ritual circle. Gufa explains that the items in front of him are meant to tell the fortune and current status of the humans fighting against the other Tensens, which is how he knew that her and Mei were on the way here. Sagiri then reaches for her sword, causing Gufa to emit their Tao towards Sagiri in a similar manner to someone overwhelming a person with their aura, which causes Sagiri to collapse from the pressure. Impressed with the fact that she can still move though, Gufa tells her that if she does continue to resist, he will crush her. Sagiri explains that she does not wish to fight and instead places her sword on the ground while apologizing for invading their island along with their behavior since then. With that said though, she finds it pathetic how he tries to stop her when all along they were purposely luring in people to the island. This conflict is merely an extension of what they sowed, and sadly, with how things are now, it's only going to result in more losses. In an attempt to prevent this though, Sagiri offers a declaration of peace between both sides. They will leave and the immortals will allow it to happen without delay. Hearing this, Gufa drops the hold he had over Sagiri and allows her to move once more. However, he warns them that even if they return back to Waguo, it would be pointless. Wanting to know what they meant by this, the immortal explains to the two through an illusion created by Tao that Rien's true plan is to depart Hōrai on a ship and release the paradise butterflies on the mainland, turning every human into Watanhua flowers. Then, once all of the humans had turned, they would form together into one giant Banko, called the Divine Beast Banko. From that, Rien can finally produce the much sought after perfected Tan. Hearing this shakes our girls to her core as finally, for the first time in the series, someone of normal sanity found out the truth about Rien's maniacal plan. By the way, Waguo, I probably said that completely wrong, is the ancient Chinese name for Japan pronounced Wakuko in Japanese. Funnily enough, the name actually came about in the 3rd century and it literally meant dwarf country. Later on in the 7th century though, and to amend their short shaming, the Japanese people changed the kanji up to mean peace and harmony. Sagiri asks Gufar why. Why would they all go to these lengths? What could possibly be motivating them? He says that they, as in him and the other Tensen, feel nothing for humans and that they are materials for them to use in order to make an elixir. Hearing this change in her old friend, Mei objects to the statement, saying that Jofuku's original research was for the good of mankind and using lives isn't. Yet, in Gufar's eyes, they've all changed, ever since one specific day in which they all tested a specific method and managed to lure in the first group of humans to the island. On that day, they learned just how beautiful and delicious humans truly are. It was more than they ever expected. Humans outside of Hōrai were weak, frail things, yet they possessed far more exquisite material. The reason for this is because humans are beings full of doubt and indecision. They waver between the extremes, which itself is the essence of Tao. Love and hate, life and death. Due to the Tensens being born as higher beings, they simply cannot fathom those aspects of Tao. So to Gufar, it's frankly unthinkable that they would look for a more suitable form of immortality elixir at this point. With the elixir completed by Rien, Gufar also says that to come to an understanding would be meaningless and all they can do now is try and steal more lives from each other. Looking over his shoulder, the dude then points out that as they speak, Shion's talisman is beginning to burn up, symbolizing that in his battle, he's nearing the end of his road. Over in his fight with Zujin, Shion manages to cut the immortal's body 215 times. Looking at the thing in front of him, he comes to a quick conclusion that his plan is working. The creature is beginning to slow its regeneration speed. Walking up to it once more, Shion, absolutely exhausted, continues to attack, slicing the thing in half again. Then, after getting right above the creature, Zujin quickly springs back and manages to get some distance between them in an attempt to regenerate. Narugai goes to attack herself, but Shion holds her back while explaining that the monster itself is also just as knackered. Terrified and unable to take them out, Zujin just asks what in the world Shion is, as he definitely isn't normal. Remembering the moment where everything first changed for Shion, he grits his teeth and tells the Fiend that those who steal the lives of others willingly could never understand, while those who have been stolen from will never forget. Looking like an actual 80-year-old bag of bones now, Zujin defends themselves by attacking the duo with the remains of all of the other bodies that had been generated throughout the battle. However, Shion sees through his opponent's ruse and slices the Tao-infused bodies to bits. He then jumps forth using the infamous Itoryu Harvest Shower, but fails to land a hit on the fleeing immortal. Zujin initially thinks Shion misjudged the distance between them, but the reality of his attack was revealed when the Blind King, acting like he has perfect 20/20 vision, fakes a trip and grabs the tip of his sword from the ground and throws it towards Zujin's tendon. Getting up from his injury, Zujin sees that Shion himself is just as exhausted from using too much of his Tao, and in that moment takes the opportunity to attack. Narugai runs towards Shion to assist him, but as per usual, she is told to stay back as he doesn't want to put her in danger. Sadly, Zujin uses this moment to her advantage and seemingly crushes Shion with the Tao bodies. Laughing out loud, thinking that she'd managed to take down one of her opponents, Zujin is promptly gobsmacked as they watch Shion slice his way out of the body coffin. In utter shock at Shion's determination, Zujin asks why. Why would he shave away at his own life force and go so far to avenge his fallen comrade? Standing there, utterly broken over everything that has happened on this island, Shion explains that he hasn't had a single chance to feel grief or mourn. At times, he even finds it difficult to rage. Still, no matter what, he states that until he managed to rid the earth of these pathetic creatures, the grief, despair, nothing will return to him. He wonders how many more hundreds of cuts it'll take until he can finally put his student and best friend to rest. Literally just in fear for their life at this point, the creature makes a last-ditch effort to heal itself by slipping backwards into the water. Coming back up, it's shown that somehow, in just a matter of moments, Zujin was able to heal themselves by taking a leaf out of Gufar's book. So, unlike all of the others, or like the other Tensen who partake in Botchu Jutsu, Gufar doesn't. He finds it disgusting. Instead, he maintains a middle ground between both yin and yang. Zujin then tries something new on the side of the Tensens and begins to partially transform their body into the Kishikai form. Standing there and looking just super freaking clean now, like their fit actually goes way too hard on the immortal right here, she taunts Shion, asking if it was still possible for him to land all of those cuts. Just like with Tenza, Zujin states that it is accustomed to their tricks, and it's fairly evident as the three begin their fight once more that Shion and Narugai are only barely able to hold on against the partial Kishikai form. Tricks though, this statement said by Zujin hits probably one of the saddest notes within one of our favourite characters, as it's literally who Shion is, a trickster. He couldn't care what this pathetic amalgamation of leaves thought. His mother was the one who gave him these scars. He was always born blind, but because he was also born as a travelling performer, it was a necessity to trick people into giving them some measly donations to live. Over time, he came to be known as the Divine Boy who could see through anyone's swordsmanship without even seeing. Moving forth throughout his life, Shion remembers how one day it led him to the Todoza, which is actually like a real-life guild for blind men to join, and the Kengyo was the highest ranking member of that org. It lasted from the 14th century all the way through to 1871, and there was also a female section called the Gozeiza. The highest ranking member, which was the Grand Kyogo, was said to have the authority equal to a daimyo. Once that said Kyogo in Hell's Paradise heard of Shion's abilities, it was through him that he managed to end up as a student of the Yamada clan. To not sully his mother's honour, Shion went along with the false backstory that he was the illegitimate child of a famous swordsman and kept his real past life a secret from the Yamada clan. Even still, this fact shames him to his core. After becoming a fully grown adult and hearing Tensen speak his mind to Shugen about how he should see him for what he is now, along with watching him gradually gain acceptance despite his past, Shion becomes inspired to be like his student, just like how he grew into the man he was. Back in the present, Shion blocks one of Zujin's attacks and states that no matter what, if it's just this one, it will die by his hand. He will gladly give his life for that cause. Quickly leaning back, he dodges Zujin's lightning Dao attack and hears them gloating about how he does not stand a chance against their power. Shion angrily silences Zujin before they could finish their sentence and declares that he will defeat them. That form is merely a cheap trick that prioritizes performance over dealing destructive blows. He tells Naruga to stay back as he will end this himself before rushing in and detaching Zujin's left hand, then in the same moment plunges his snapped katana deep into her tendon. Remembering the survivors' strategy meeting about how they need to target Lord Tensen's plant-like ovules to deal the finishing blow, Shion disembodies Zujin with his blade, then, standing above, presses his sword down on the Tensen's ovule to end the battle. While doing so, Shion is suddenly assaulted by the remains of Zujin, sending a bunch of the vines shooting into his body. May explains that they need to pull the blade out, otherwise the ovule will continue to attack the one who holds the blade down. However, Shion continues to press down on his sword, knowing that if they both die, then he will still be victorious in the end. Narugo worries that if Shion continues with holding down the sword, then he will die. However, Shion tells you to stay back. He expresses the pain he felt as he left Tensen behind to fight for their lives and pleads to Narugai to leave him behind as he takes responsibility for his past actions. He finds it horrid that he made the correct choice to flee in the past, and now all he can do is this. His eyes don't shed tears, so he's unable to show how much he truly cared. Narugo tries to intervene and talk to him, but Shion just demands that she flees, causing her to turn and run away as tears begin to fall from her face. She knows exactly what her sensei is going through now, as she's been in the exact same shoes. She could never forgive herself. Instead, she thought that she was the reason everyone in her life died. Yet, after meeting Tensen, seeing his actions, and hearing him say that he was unable to accept her reason for wanting to die, it causes her to stop and look at the blade in front of her. Beginning to walk now, she then sees a vision of Tensen bending down in front of her before standing up and gifting Narugai back her blade. Narugai tries to explain her situation, but before she can even verbalize what's going on, Tensen holds out her blade with one hand and says that if that's the case, then there's only one thing to do. Encouraged by her man, Narugai grabs the blade and boosts it back towards the palace. Inside of the building, Shion is fully covered with the vines and sadly starting to feel his life being eaten away. This alone to him confirms that just like him, the immortal is also slowly beginning to fade away. However, Narugai suddenly flies through, tackling Shion and freeing him from the death grip that he was in. After tearing away the remaining vines, Narugai bear hugs her sensei in an attempt to restore his Dao. Sitting there absolutely exhausted now, Narugai points out that the immortal is slowly regenerating, but at this speed, it'll most likely take a whole day to recover. Shion believes that they should take it out now since it's nice and easy, but Narugai objects and tells him that that's exactly why they've got to leave. If anyone even tries to get close to the creature when it's in that state, then the vines will immediately skewer anyone, so instead they should leave and get to the others. Shion, he just can't seem to bring himself to this though. He finds it impossible to leave with that specific creature still sucks in air. Finally, Narugai tells him that that isn't it. He's wrong. Tensen never died with pain or regrets. She saw it with her own eyes. He was smiling because he knew that the people he loved were able to escape. It was the smile of someone who was proud in their final moments, but also an air of sadness. She doesn't think that he regretted a thing about his final moments. Walking up to him, Narugai hugs Shion and asks that instead of holding revenge in his heart, he tell her all about the man that he used to be. After Shion looks towards the blade embedded in Zujin, he notices the reflection of Tensen beside him and Narugai. Finally feeling somewhat at peace now, Shion thanks Narugai for reasoning with him and agrees to leave. Back over at the ritual circle, two bottles suddenly shatter while another slowly begins to crack. This here obviously indicates that instead of the criminals or executioners, the members of the Lord Tensens have been defeated pretty much simultaneously. Noticing that the talismans remained intact after the battles concluded, Sagiri believes that Gabimaru and the others are still alive. With the ritual pretty much over, Gufar gets up and prepares to report to Rien. Confused, Sagiri questions Gufar why they weren't willing to avenge their comrades. Pretty much, this is just due to the fact that these Tensen supposedly carry no emotion or bonds with one another. Instead, their passings were merely a larger part of their training in the way of yin and yang. Gufar even reminds Mei that the same went for her. The Tensen are beings that only seek the way, no bonds or emotion. What they've seen from her is only an act created by a lost child. Confused as to why she would even reveal herself after leaving, Gufar inquires as to why she came back. Our little Mei, still hardly able to verbalize herself, just answers that she finally understands what life means. Turning back, Gufar just sadly responds that he does indeed envy her. Honestly, Gufar, along with I think it was Daofar, were really the only other two Tensen to see kind of how messed up their ways had become. Maybe Jufar a little bit there. Obviously Mei understands as well, hence why she left. I just think the reason the other two didn't is because they do truly have emotions and never wanted to break away from what they'd come to know. Either way, everyone is suddenly taken off guard as the palace then begins to violently shake, with Gufar saying that the situation has taken a turn for the worse. Outside, it's revealed that the maniacal maniac, the Order 66 merchant, rank 2 Yamada Asaimon Shugen, riding atop his mansion, smashes through the wall that made up Horai's surroundings. Back over with the larger squad, and after having given Gantetsu an eye patch to help protect his left eye, Fuchi, Toma, and Big Chi have a comedic discussion about its positioning. Chobe hilariously interrupts their conversation, calling them utter fools for weeing away time, and quickly brings their focus back to the main issue at hand. He reveals to them all Rien's plan of turning every human in Japan into Tan, synchronizing them all with the monster called Banko. He also remembers how Rien told him that he was confident that the other Tensen wouldn't die, but also stated that if they did happen to die, then it would not matter to him. Chobe listens to Gantetsu's complaints about how he finds the situation far too complicated, and also agrees with Fuchi's suggestion on his eye patch, much to the assignment's happiness. Toma, getting a little curious as to what his brother's gotten up to with the Tensen, inquires, but is utterly shocked after Chobe reveals that he engaged in Botchu Jutsu and was constantly experimented on. Knowing that they must stop Rien and retrieve a ship from the floodgate to escape themselves, Fuchi asks Chobe if he is willing to ally with them. Before he could give them an answer though, the four suddenly feel the room begin to tremble. Meanwhile, Naruga helps Shion up so that the two can walk together while he's still injured. Shion assures Naruga that even if things don't go as they planned, and they end up in the worst possible scenario, then he will ensure her that she's still able to survive and return home. Edo though would not be their destination, instead they will roam the country together. In the current time period, there are still a fair few mountain clans that remain hidden. Maybe living life that way will suit them both. He gets down on his knees and promises that so long as life burns in his eyes, he will be her protector until that day comes. The two then, get into a good old comedic discussion about another one of Shion's blind metaphors there, when they both suddenly feel the palace begin to start shaking. After the tremors settle down, Shion is unable to detect what caused it. All around them though, appearing from the darkness, Iwa Ninja masks break through from the shadows, with one in front of the duo telling them that they have been ordered by Shugen to eliminate all convicts and any assignment who have sided with them. At the same time, Gantetsu and the other three there, along with the currently unconscious Gabimaru, are surrounded by various ninja. Instantly, the ninja around Gabi lash out in an attempt to take him out. However, Gabimaru wakes up and in one perfect motion takes out all four enemies. After looking and realizing that it was Iwa ninjas he's just murked, Gabi deduced that the next Gabimaru is here. And what does Gabi mean by that? I'd love to know your guys' initial thoughts down in the comment section below. So, in a flashback during the first night they camped out on the island, it's shown that Sagiri was constantly told by Gabimaru that she was feeling sleepy, even though she denied it. She recommends though that he sleeps after the battles he's fought, but is quickly told that people like him and Iwa are able to go for at least 10 days without sleep. With this in mind, she asked as to why Gabimaru was even worried about people coming after him. Gabimaru tells Sagiri that he has no doubt that they'll track him down and find him. Hearing him, Sagiri becomes confused by this as to why would they go out of their way for just one stray ninja? So this is as Gabimaru reveals here, for one simple fact. The combination Gabimaru the Hollow is a codename meant to carry and pass down through Iwagakure's strongest shinobi. saying Gabimaru like 12 times in one sentence here is gonna make my brain explode, but either way. Well, remember when the chief found Gabi with his murked parents? Turns out that the dude there next to him was the previous Gabimaru. He wasn't telling our Gabi to necessarily behold weakness, but instead the current Gabimaru of that time, who I'm guessing was the one who probably murked Gabi's parents. Otherwise, how did the dude like gain that position unless Gabi's parents were just like random ninja and trying to leave the village, and it's just me who's read way too much into the scene here. But moving forward, either way, back when Senta was alive and during the time Yuzuriha and him ran off to evade the flames, she actually explained this possibility to the Weeb King. She went over the horrific tale of Gabimaru the Hollow, and how the name alone was the only thing she knew was real. She's almost certain she heard tales about how even if Gabimaru was slain, he still somehow shows back up and wreaks havoc even more than before. Decades pass, but this name never ages or dies. It's as if it's a living, breathing representation of terror. Seemingly falling into a flashback of Gabi's own memories, it shows the Iwagakuri's chief telling the potential young Gabi candidates on how he will pick from one of them to become the next inheritor. During the training, the chief sets his sights high on the young Gabimaru, like the one that we know, for his impressive skills and lack of emotions. So, Gabi used to be kind of different, I guess you could say. This dumb kid once threw a rock at his head, and well, yeah, you guys can see what happened here. Gabi doesn't know what the middle ground is. After finding out what happened, the chief asks the previous Gabimaru on the one who possibly committed this act, and it's assumed that our Gabi kind of popped off here. As the early days' brutalization continued throughout the clan, the chief takes note on how each of the victims separated the young Gabimaru from the weak, so that now only those who are like-minded equals remain. Later on, one of the shinobi comes up to Gabimaru after becoming impressed that he carried out a dangerous mission. With admirers and peers that envy him, along with having true talent, the chief decides that Gabimaru will be the next shinobi to inherit the alias. The chief tells Gabimaru that he has chosen him as the next successor and must complete a ceremony where he has to take out the current Gabimaru in a fight to the death. I'm assuming this is with absolute ease that our boy wins here, as we don't even see what happens. The previous Gabimaru just got completely off-screen by our boy in a matter of moments. Overly enjoyed with just like how broken Gabimaru is, the chief screams in delight that he will become history's strongest Gabimaru the Hollow. Back in the present now, Shugen orders the ninja to execute any life form they come across, except the other surviving Yamada. Then, just as abruptly, leaves with Isuzu and Kiyomaru, while nearby, Jika decides to guard the rear, when in actuality, man's just trying to do the least work possible. Looking up to the ninja next to him, Jika says that he knows this whole obey the shogunate concept is just a front used to hide their own agenda on the mission. Thinking back, the specific ninja remembers the chief's orders to kill Gabimaru in order to become the next Gabimaru the Hollow themselves. Standing up, she tells Jika that they share the same goal, since at the end of the day, their objective is to kill everyone else on the island. However, the ninja tells themselves that the only thing that was more important than actually taking out Gabi was to bring him back. Looking up with a maniacal expression on her face, the ninja just remembers that after all, she was the one who slaughtered everyone in his way and took out those who were envious of his success. After confronting her, the ninja admits to this. She explains that they have been supporting him all along from the shadows and confess their feelings to him, that they love him, that they'd be happy to die by his hands or kill him. Yuki just came out the bag with like a maxed out clingy ex-girlfriend right here. Holy, that's like the personification of actual crazy. Also, on another note, those masks that ninja wear resemble the ones used in Noh theatre. Noh drama is the oldest surviving form of Japanese theatre. It combines music, dance, and acting to communicate Buddhist themes. The tradition began throughout like the Muromachi period with around 60 masks that originally had like religious connotations. Funnily enough, and you all probably saw this coming, Gabi's crazy girl we just met wears the mask that represents a jealous female demon. Back in the depths of Horai, inside of the floodgates, Rien senses the tremors coming from outside and is also reported to by Gufar that the other remaining Tensen have been killed. The rite of just consumption has failed and extremely skilled human reinforcements have arrived. With no other choice, Rien stages a counterattack by sending the Doshi out for battle while keeping a minimum number with him as protection. As they rush towards the battlefield, Rien reiterates that this is war. The losses and outcome of this battle matter not. Before long, everything should return to how it once was. Above ground now, we see everyone, including the Doshi riding their steeds, beginning to throw hands. Seeing as how they can't manage to defeat every single fodder opponent, Gentetsu Fuchi, Toma and Chobe decide to instead make a run for it. Over in another battle, Shion procures himself a sword from one of the ninja and is told by Narugai to follow her to safety. While sprinting away themselves, Gantetsuzai lets them all know that he knows a thing or two about experiencing war. These fights they're currently in go way beyond just pitting strength against strength. In war, living and dying is complete luck. There's no fun about the battles and no pride at all to be won. It's only hell on earth, and the people who survive are only those that run. Those who have pawns to do their bidding, and the complete madmen with gods on their side. Over with one of these madmen as the Doshi army charge towards him. Shugen remembers Aizen and is driven to cut down the entire freaking army in only a few deadly swings. After seeing Shugen's battle skills, Kiyomaru asked him if he had some experience with war. However, he's quickly told by him that this battle isn't war. It's an execution to purge the scum who dared to defy the Shogun's honorable blade testers. He then commands his 2 underlings to cut off the enemy's escape routes and slaughter them all. At the floodgates, Rien encounters the so-called wannabe Gabimaru and is surprised that he couldn't detect their presence at all. Gabby's stalker here says that they have no desire to fight with Rien and is sure that if they just waited here, Gabimaru himself might come to the floodgates. Getting curious himself and while asking if this person happens to be from the mainland, Rien also commands the Doshi to take them out. However, the second Gabimaru here, just like Gabby did with Sagiri, asks if they'd like to see some ninjutsu, before suddenly using Ninpo ascetic blades to incinerate the Doshi. With the area around them beginning to catch fire, the ninja orders its clansmen to burn all of these ships except for one, while they themselves take on Rien. Back inside of the good old Renton sanctum, Sagiri and Mei are confronted by the Doshi and Iwa ninja. Sagiri sees the ninja charging towards her and instantly defends herself by sensing their Dao to track the flow of their movements. While fighting off everyone, she notices that the Doshi don't track Mei, while the shinobi do not attack her because of her position in the clan. Believing that it's most likely due to the specific orders each side was given, she comes to the conclusion that the key to winning lies in exploiting this weirdity. The 2 Doshi then come charging in to attack. However, heyo, it's time. They are randomly pulled away from the 2 by a random sticky string. Of course, it's no one other than the sneaky Kunoichi herself, Yuzuriha. Seeing that her friend is still somehow alive after her previous bout, she runs in and gives her a hug. Pretty much like we all got hard baited on thinking that our girl passed away there, when in all reality she just actually had to kind of take a nap. But if you kind of think about it in the perspective that when you usually get injured and need to go to sleep, you usually think your body's shutting down and dying, so it makes sense that she probably thought it was the end of the road for her. But turning out that after a nap, she's back. Then, noticing one random small ninja, Yuzuriha finishes off a small group of them and explains to Sagiri that before meeting up with them, she checked out the surrounding area. The situation is probably the worst they could be in right now, as they are seemingly cornered by all 4 battles that are happening around them. Since the shinobi were hired by the shogun, Sagiri thinks that they could persuade them to fight, together with them. However, Yuzuriha tells her that it just wasn't possible, since they are out to kill all of the criminals, and reminds Sagiri that their task in coming here has not changed. Sagiri knows this, and points out that the elixir is most likely at the floodgates as well. Seeing Sagiri for the first time since arriving on the island, Isuzu becomes relieved, but is shocked to see her standing next to the criminal Yuzuriha of Keishu. Sagiri tries to explain to her that she and the other executioners had no other choice but to team up with the criminals given their situation. She tells her that many lives were stolen by this woman's hand, so think of her victims. Do not dishonor them, as Yuzuriha is truly a villain. At the same time, Kiyomaru confronts Shion and Narugai while Jiki confronts Chobei and Toma. Isuzu explains in combination with the others that each criminal and immortal creature are their enemies, and anyone who is willing to help them, even the assignment, are also seen as an enemy now. With that said, Isuzu asks Sagiri to move away from Yuzuriha and come join her side. Meanwhile, Gantetsuzai and Fuchi, who had temporarily separated themselves from the other brothers, run off in an attempt to find an escape route. Catching their attention though and slowly appearing through the shadows behind them, it turns out to be no one other than Shugen, looking rizzed out of his freaking mind, like the fit is actually Darth Maul spec. Anyway, standing there in front of them, Gantetsuzai notices just how menacing this dude is. Realizing that Fuchi has untied his criminal's hands, Shugen then angrily demands that he give him a proper reason as to why. Wondering what's up with this uptight weirdo, Gantetsuzai tries doing a similar thing like he did with Gabimaru back in one of the earlier arcs to feel out how his opponent might fight. However, Shugen sees through his intentions and silences him, telling Gantetsuzai that he only wishes to speak with Fuchi. Gantetsuzai just stands there, dumbfounded as to who Shugen is, since unlike the other opponents he has faced, he is unable to get an exact read on what he's packing. Shugen, who's still not over the first question he asked, yells out to Fuchi to explain the reason why his criminal's hands are untied. Like we all know from everything that's happened so far on the island, Fuchi tries telling him that they had no other choice but to ally themselves with the criminals due to their extreme circumstances. Shugen hears this reason, but as he's here now, tells him that he no longer has to be by Gentetsu's side and can behead him instead. He pleads with Fuchi to not throw away all of the memories they have together, all of the times they spoke about anatomy, and the paths that he has chosen in life. Saddened with the reality of the situation, Fuchi says that he also cherishes the times he spent together, learning about life through his experimentations, but also says that before coming to the island, he didn't understand the value of life. No, not until the death of his close friend. He instead draws his sword and apologizes for disappointing him, but what they need to do now is focus on escaping. They can worry about everything else later. After drawing out his sword, Shugen is shocked to see that Fuchi used the Tsuba as Gentetsu's eye patch. To him, and most other samurai, as we've been over before as well, the blade is a warrior's soul, the Yamada soul. Furious, he screams that if he's misplaced his soul, then he'll be forced to. But before he can even finish his sentence, man is cut off by the Big G, who himself became dissatisfied at the fact that Shugen just assumed he could murk him with ease. Instantly, the two clash swords, and while stuck in a blade tussle, Tamaya knows that he's fine and should be able to throw him around with the size advantage. Winning the tussle like he thought, Gentetsu manages to knock Shugen off his feet. However, as he thinks he can take advantage of the scenario, notices that the samurai had legitimately transformed into someone else. Having gained some distance, Big G instantly closes in and goes to strike down on him, but Shugen easily blocks Gentetsu's next attack and takes the time to tell him about the fond memories he had helping Yamada-sama Genji with his calligraphy. As he starts to describe Genji, Shugen's strength increases and causes Gentetsu to see him as an image of Genji now. Shugen now, with his massive strength buff, deflects Gentetsu's attack and challenges him. With all of the fallen and even some of the alive Yamada beginning to appear as spirits behind, Shugen states that it will not be him who delivers the final blow, but the blades of all Yamada-Simon. As the bout begins, Shugen uses Genji's helm splitter technique to completely off-balance Gentetsu, who is unable to counter before the samurai disarms him. Having lost his sword and with no other option left, Gentetsu throws a punch, but Shugen once again avoids the attack by imitating Kisho's ability. With the big guy beginning to fall over, Shugen explains the kind of man that Kisho was. Though he rarely asserted himself into conversation, he was a genius when it came to foreseeing and warding off attacks. Shion suddenly uses a combination of both Kisho's Harvest Shower and Genji's Helm Divest in an attempt to mortally wound the criminal. Dropping to his knees, Gentetsu says that he wished he got to place him more, but now he's slowly starting to fade. Not taking him entirely seriously, Shion screams that mercy isn't meant for the likes of criminals. No, this is an execution. Having swung the blade down atop Big G, Shugen is left mortified to find that no one other than Fuchi had somehow managed to block the strike. Fuchi tries explaining that crime and evil are the same. Gentetsu is undoubtedly a criminal, but by no means is he evil. He tells him that he's just over this whole thing. He doesn't want anyone else to pass on, even if it means turning his back on the laws of this era. Having heard these words, Shugen sees that Fuchi hasn't changed since the first time they met. And yeah, I'd love to go over what they did here, just, best of buds, back in these old days doing little experimentations on people and stuff, but YouTube these days. Anyways, as we bang it back to reality, Shugen suddenly slashes Fuchi before he even had the chance to react. With tears beginning to fall from his face, Shugen just remarks that he was a sublime man till the end, someone who only ever put those in front of himself. Elsewhere, inside of the Rien temple, Isuzu explains to Sagiri that she has faith in Shugen because he upholds order. He protects those who abide by the law and punishes those who go against them. The level of crime does not matter. In his eyes, it's the standard itself that needs to be upheld. At the same time, Chobei and Toma surrender, Shion lays down his weapon, and Gabimaru is approached by two ninja with faces resembling Iwagakura's chief and his wife. Back with the fallen Fuchi though, Gentetsu thinks that it's mental Shugen would ever go that far for the sake of order. Absolutely raging out at this point, Shugen screams that no, this isn't crazy, what he witnessed was pure determination, from which there is no return, and for that reason, he condemns Tamaya, a villain, before seemingly finishing it all. So elsewhere at the floodgates and manipulating the flames themselves, Rien controls the second Gabimaru's fire ninjutsu and uses it against the surrounding ninja, taking out a bunch of them before they even got a chance to react. Dodging out of the blast to herself, the female Gabi throws a kunai at Rien, which connects directly with the immortal's face, but after it recovers immediately sees that not only can the being use sorcery, but also regenerate. Thinking back to what Gabimaru said to her earlier in life about how no matter what the situation, an enemy is still a physical being. If it has a conscious mind, then a strategy can be formed. With that in mind, the second Gabimaru places out her hands onto the shoulder of some ninjas and commands them to use the last of their lives to set the ships ablaze. Not wanting the ships to burn up, otherwise all the butterflies and the whole plan goes up in flames, Rien tries to manipulate Dao in an attempt to crush the ninjas boarding the ship. Unable to stop everyone and seeing just how tense Rien had become, the second Gabimaru calls out that she'd found her love. To her, it's obvious that she'd been holding back as to not damage the surroundings, but in reality, it's only when the ships get damaged that cause Rien true pain. Pondering if it's a possible love, the ninja states that at times it can be a troublesome thing, and at others a strength, but in this fight here, it is indeed the immortal's weakness. All of the surrounding ninja, which seemingly keep appearing from cracks, send a plethora of shuriken towards the creature. Rien then easily blocks off the basic attack, but is shocked to see that the Elixir of Life has been taken from her by the second Gabimaru, who, without a second thought, then tosses it to another ninja and commands them to get it outside. As Rien tries to stop them, the second Gabimaru activates a Ninpo Pyro Bridge to launch a torrent of fire that completely engulfs the immortal. Rien doesn't drop their concentration over which ninja has the elixir though, and destroys them with a shot of Dao. However, it soon comes to their attention that one of the items they were carrying was the squad leader's mask, and the other with the elixir had managed to escape. The female Gabi knows that she stands no chance of winning when it comes to strength, but this is war. When someone is in an unfavorable condition, they must exploit the enemy's point of view to create chaos. That way, any outcome is possible. As in war, it isn't the strong who prevail, it's the wicked and twisted. After bringing the elixir outside, the shinobi pulls out a massive seashell and signals the team that it has been acquired. Isuzu hears the signal, indicating to her that the mission is now complete. Yuzuriha, who's on the ground in front of her, unable to deal massive damage due to still needing to heal, attempts to fight Isuzu without her full power. Seeing the slimy string coming towards her, Isuzu easily counters by kicking rubble up from the ground below. Sagiri quickly darts in and gets Yuzuriha out of the way while asking her fellow executioner to calm down, as Yuzuriha is not a villain. Utterly enraged by the fact that Sagiri just won't listen, Isuzu responds by telling her that even though they captured the elixir, she will not stand to see any of the criminals alive before they leave. Going into a small flashback, it shows that even though Isuzu didn't exactly have a bond with everyone inside of the dojo, she felt a connection with Sagiri the first time they met, since they were females in the Yamada clan. So now to see her teamed up with an enemy on the island, it makes her enraged. Meanwhile, Gabimaru watches as the two shinobi Kinkakubo and Genkakubo use transformation jutsu to reform their faces into the Iwakukure's chief and his wife. Speaking as the chief, he tells Gabimaru that he's been expelled from the clan. No grave shall bear his name, as to leave the village means that you no longer exist in reality. Speaking of reality, same goes for his wife. Apparently she is only an illusion created as a shame to help imprison his heart inside of the clan. However, it sadly backfired in this case. Funnily enough, Gabimaru compliments the two ninja on their adept use of transformation jutsu, and hearing him do so makes the big guy shudder with joy over the fact that Gabimaru would say so. Hearing the two talk to him about the next Gabimaru's instructions, our boy easily figures that the next Gabimaru must be Shija, which the two confirmed. Along with this, they also updated their previous commander that Kumukiri along with the others had perished on the voyage to the island. They also insisted on telling Gabimaru that Shija was obviously the person who murked all of the other candidates, and that in their eyes, they still view him as the true Gabimaru. Finally, I can let my brain rest now and just refer to the female Gabi as Shija now. Holy, the idea that her name wasn't mentioned after this point just blew my mind when I first went through and reread this arc. Anyway, after they also hear the massive trumpet go off, the guys let Gabi know that it informs them that they've actually acquired the Elixir of Life. Then moving on to the issue at hand, Kinkakubo humbly asks Gabimaru to end his life, as this way, the chief will remove the kill order on him, and if he wants, he can make it painless by licking the ninja's toxic saliva. Gabimaru obviously found this method of theirs to be completely and utterly gross, but is begged by Kinkakubo to reconsider since in their hearts they're all allies. Pointing out to them that they hadn't entered his thrown hands range, Gabi praises them for following the basic ninja principles. Despite this, Gabimaru flexes his bloodlust and causes them to stumble backwards. Somewhat annoyed, Kinkakubo asked if he was still willing to defy the chief, and hearing that Gabimaru planned to escape this place, Kinkakubo tells him that even if he does make it back to Japan, Yui does not exist. Obviously, our boy's heard this bot-ass take how many times now? Man just can't fathom the idea that she isn't alive, especially since he knows the people from Iwa specialize in psychological warfare, so in his eyes, he has to see it to believe it. Although they were unable to reason with him, and much to the annoyance of Gabimaru, King Kikubo says that he and the others are all delighted that he refused, since this gives him a chance to fight to the death with the current Gabimaru of Iwagakure. Everyone inside of the clan obviously looks up to him, especially the younglings. The idea that they all get to fight him in Mortal Kombat is a dream. Funnily enough, some of the higher rankings even dropped down to get the opportunity to become fodder on this mission, just so they had the chance to throw hands with Gabi. Bowing their heads in honor of what's about to come, the plethora of genin rush towards Gabimaru. However, using Dao sensation and looking like he perceives absolutely everything in reality right now, it's like some Gojo spec, Gabimaru quickly deals with the ninja, dodging in and out of all of their attacks and using their own weapons against them. While the fodder losers dealt with, Gabi tells them all that Iwakukure's tactics, such as psychological warfare and numbers, will not work on him. King Kikubo notices that our boy has become a lot stronger, but is corrected by the ninja, saying that no, he finally learned to become weak. He then states that he doesn't care who he has to fight, whether it's the Lord Tensen or every Iwagakure, even these new Yamada. If they stand in his way and try to hinder him from escape, he will obliterate everyone and everything. Dude, I laughed so hard at this part when I first read through it and everything. You'll see in a moment what I mean. But we'll just skip around here quickly so you get the idea. Well, as Gabimaru quickly begins taking down all of the genin who are overly satisfied, they all introduce themselves before instantly being murked by our man, who all the while lets them know what they did wrong with their techniques, training them in their final moments like a true king. Ending the beatdown though, Gabimaru takes out the final attacking ninja with a fat kick, completely cracking the floor they're standing on. Going Byakugan mode all of a sudden, Gabi activates his Dao and takes the opportunity to sense the palace's layout, revealing these skirmishes taking place between enemies and allies. Quickly dodging a random fodder ninja that tried attacking from behind, he also senses that Shija is located at the floodgates in a boat. Sagiri is safe for the time being, but he is shocked to see that Fuchi had fallen. Keeping the mission as his main priority first, Gabi ignores assisting the others to rush towards the Rien temple to meet up with Sagiri, steal the Elixir of Life from the ninja squad, and leave through the floodgates to reunite with his wife. Meanwhile, Zujin's plant-like remains suddenly reawaken. Then, slowly moving, it leaves the Taisoku temple and takes the underground water system to eventually reach the divine beast, Banko. Remembering Rien's past explanation about how the Banko required more high quality Dao to stay alive and that consuming it would be dangerous, Zujin in their half-baked state throws the warnings aside and makes its way into the amalgamation of vines to become one with the divine beast. Erupting from the top of the palace, wood and other remnants of it go flying everywhere as Zujin emerges completely fused with the divine Banko and draws everyone's attention. At a similar time, it's revealed that Chobe allowed himself and Toma to be captured by the enemy, as he believed that it's better to bide his time rather than fight while outnumbered. However, Chobe bizarrely starts to feel a pain coming from his arm, which, as Jika starts to ask him what's up, flowers begin uncontrollably sprouting from his body. While this occurrence is happening, a captured Doshi walks out in front of Jika and starts to transform back into a human. With the dude's sentience returning, he just wonders as to where he is and the whereabouts of his allies and how he even arrived here to begin with. At the same time, Gabimaru's flower Dao also starts to react and his body begins sprouting flowers across it. Looking into the distance and seeing the massive flower monster, he assumes that it's most likely got something to do with that thing. At the floodgates, Rien's body also reacts and while sensing what caused this change, finds that Zujin had merged with the divine Banko. The Zujin-fused Banko then releases a plethora of roots which begin to track to any large source of Dao, transforming them into trees in the process. Over in the Rien temple, Sagiri notices that Mei's body is starting to react to the Banko, causing Isuzu to rush outside and find out what exactly has happened. Only making it to the doorway though, she then becomes horrified as she looks outside, witnessing multiple sunflower-like human trees mixed with taller Monshin and Soshin stuck in the Zazen pose, walking through them towards the center of Hōrai. Meanwhile, Shugen notices that Gantei Susai and Fuchi had managed to disappear, and instead only finds a flower bed in front of him. While this has been going on, Rien thinks back to an old conversation he had with Rien. In it, he was saddened about how the divine Banko wilted, but refused any thought of ever turning it into Tan as it was just too strong to control. Even for them, the Tensen, it would throw off the delicate balance of Dao that gives them form. In reality, and sadly because of what Zujin has done, everything will have to start anew. Endlessly, they shall return to the outset. Just like before, their hopes are dashed, a feeling one only gets when travelling between Jigokuraku itself. Having heard Rien state this once again, Rien asks why he would go so far. What is he truly trying to achieve here? Shugen, who's still looking at the flowers in front of him, realizes that both Fuchi and Gantei Susai hadn't left but were covered by them and wonders what could have possibly caused it. He is then found by Iwagakure shinobi who have come to confirm that Shija was taken out while fighting Rien, but managed to stall him momentarily, and now the Tensen is about to leave on his ship. After getting the Elixir of Life from them, Shugen orders the ninja to uncover Gentetsusai and Fuchi's bodies from the flowers and confirm their status. Once Shugen had left though, and made his way to the floodgates, an Iwagakure shinobi reforms their face and reveals themselves to be Shija in disguise, stating that they had substituted themselves with another Iwagakure shinobi, allowing them to escape. They then, for good measure, throw 2 kunai at the flower bed to make sure that Gentetsusai and Fuchi don't survive. Shija then jumps up onto a roof, and once she sees just how messed up the area has become, states that it's almost as if they're on the other side. Seeing the massive Banko monster in front of her, she realizes that mere mortals are no match for such a thing. Laughing now, she leaps from the building in some hectic looking JoJo's pose, ready for her otherworldly deathmatch against Gabimaru. Shortly after, Fuchi, still somehow alive, wakes up and comes to the conclusion that Shugen must have held back, as he definitely could have ended him there. Looking over to his man, he sees that Gentetsusai is in a terrible condition and decides that instead of treating himself, he needs to help him. With his hands trembling, Fuchi tries focusing on treating his wounds until he sees an apparition of himself telling him that he should give up, since this new outlook of his on life will not do him much good in this era. This is an era in which men happily surrender their lives if a superior commands it, one in which a son takes pride in serving as a kaishaku. Shugen is a perfect representation of this, and that's why he acts this way. He knows that the Yamada clan is already treated like a band of ronin, and this could cause them to be disowned by the shogun. Fuchi's apparition pleads with him to know his place, as if he emerges from this, it'll ruin everything. With Fuchi slowly beginning to fade, he tells himself that the clan does matter a lot to him, and he doesn't want it to be disbanded. Still, he believes that what he has learned on this island matters, and now he's beginning to lose his mind over these competing emotions. He knows that he truly does want to support Gentetsusai, and even though Shu tried to end his life, he doesn't blame him. In the end, he just wonders if this is what it means to be human. Opening his eyes to the sound of someone mumbling, Gentetsusai instantly rises to his knees and panics, seeing Fuchi lying down dead in front of him, realizing that he had given everything just to heal him. Screaming at him, he asks if the Yamada assignment Fuchi really just went and saved his life. Unable to open his eyes or even respond, Fuchi, who's still somehow alive, just becomes delighted to hear that Gentetsusai called him by his name for the first time. In his last thoughts, Fuchi warns Shugen that the survivors are not to be underestimated, since he has observed their will to continue fighting no matter what. Everything and everyone on the island is a walking paradox. Fuchi then happily waves goodbye as he accepts his fate and tells us all that he hopes everyone's dreams become realized, enemies and allies alike. And my throat has a meteor-sized rock in it right now that hit harder than Sense's death in my books. I don't know if it's because I love these two guys the most and their interactions with both Yuzuriha and Gentetsusai, but seeing him happy for everyone here in the end, figuring out how he truly felt towards people, and how he came to see that everyone was similar is just a great way to end a character that I initially thought was a simple replacement for the Weeb King. Plus, to those saying, in my last video, that this was just hands, yeah, a lot of it is, but it's also just jam-packed with proper character development on each side, and enough world building so that we don't feel like we're missing out on some, massive piece of info. Might sound crazy, but for, how concise and quickly, the story is moving, it's still smashing everything I wanted to know, and more. Plus, the art that Yuki has just been showing recently is god tier in this arc. Also, I probably should mention this, but Big Gabimaru just ripped off the flowers that were around his body. Several minutes before everything went down, Gufa entered the main temple annex to protect the basin as ordered by Rien. While looking through the flame thingy he's holding, Gufa becomes confused if this was indeed Rien's true plan all along. In the present, Shugen is told by the Iwagakure shinobi to not engage the giant monsters since their touch will cause him to be engulfed by flowers. Not bothered by this, Shugen makes quick work of the monsters using Senter's fighting style and cries upon thinking about his passing. Pushing forth, he notices that the Banko isn't paying attention to him and makes a run for it to enter the main temple before the vines could block his path. Meanwhile, Sagiri, Yuzuriha and Isuzu defend themselves against the monsters. Next to them, and seeing as how their Dao around is being disrupted, Mei slowly begins to start blooming herself. Seeing her, they all realize that they must do something quickly before it's too late for Mei. Yuzuriha swings up to get a good look at Zujin, and after seeing that it's blocking the entrance to the floodgates with vines and monsters, notes that it seems as if they're back at square one. She then sees that Sagiri is trying to convince Isuzu into cooperating with the convicts, but to no avail. Wanting to help her mate, she drops in and tries her hand in persuading her. However, Gentetsusai also arrives carrying Fuchi's body while boldly stating that they do not need to join forces with her, as after all, it was Shugen who took down Fuchi. After the group buries Fuchi in flowers, Gentetsusai directs his anger towards Isuzu and once again says that they do not need her help. Agreeing with him though, Isuzu says that they do not need to cooperate as Shugen is still here. Members of this mission weren't chosen because of their innate ability. Rather, the three of them were ideal disposable pawns set up for the amusement of the Shogun. If it were a priority of them to end this mission, they would have selected Shugen to begin with as his power is incomparable. Yuzuriha, who knows that they need help, becomes annoyed with Isuzu's stubbornness after she continuously refuses and calls her a gorilla, only for Isuzu to get hit with a fat dose of that childhood PTSD and reply that gorillas embody the very concept of Bushido. Getting down on her knees, Isuzu then intends to commit seppuku to take responsibility for the death of her comrades and hopes that her death will appease the Shogun. As everyone continues to bicker amongst each other, Jika arrives with Toma, Chobei, Kiyomaru, Shigon, Nurugai, and the Iwagakure shinobi. Jika tells Isuzu that if he doesn't return home, then the responsibility will lie on Shugen to commit Kurmicide. However, he does also say that he just came up with a great plan that will be able to defeat Zujin and might have a way for the criminals to earn their freedom, but needs assistance from Gabimaru in order to do so. Remember how I brought up that the divine Banko was literally the god of creation and creation myth earlier in the video? Well, now we've seen everything. What do you all think about that being the reality of it in the series? It just kind of needed, I guess, one of these Tensen to control it to become a living being on this planet, like a titan in some kind of aspect. Anyway, moving forth. Chobei, while suffering from Zujin's effects on his body, explains to everyone that according to Mei, the divine Banko had spread all over the palace and that the fragments in the air are tan particles from the flowers, which will cause anyone to undergo arborification if inhaled. Mei also warns them that they will have until morning to destroy it, or everyone's Tao will be disrupted and cause them to turn into flowers. Knowing that they have to stop it to destroy the tandon, Chobei lets them all know that he senses the Banko has 5 tandons of each of the 5 elements scattered around the grounds of Hōrai. After remembering how he won their fight with Jufa and Daofa, Gentetsusai predicts that they'll probably have to destroy all of the Banko's tandons simultaneously. Looking around at the state of everyone here, Shion becomes concerned with their condition since the battle with the Tensens has left them in a bad shape to continue fighting. As a few larger monsters roll up behind their group, everyone easily takes care of them, destroying them in an instant. After hearing Sagiri and Narugai make excellent points about needing enough Tao to destroy the Banko and stop the monsters from pestering them, Jika, while lazily big chilling on the floor, tells them all that they need Gabimaru to handle this problem. Which, I went over just before, except this is much more expanded on. Then, out of freaking nowhere, Sagiri ducks after sensing a fire torrent coming from behind her, which incinerates all of the monsters and reveals that the one and only Gabimaru has arrived. However, due to him being inflicted by the Banko's effects, he collapses to the ground after finally reuniting with everyone. With Gabimaru in a bad state, Jika sees that he has to change his plans and turns his attention to the Iwagakure shinobi beside him. Obviously, Gabimaru was super glad to see that Sagiri is okay, since he reminds her that he needs her in order to return and receive the pardon. Despite everyone feeling exhausted, Chobei says that they have to fight back no matter what happens. He then walks up to Gabimaru and compliments him on the first battle before stating that given what he's seen, it's fairly evident that he's also got something to lose. To which our battered and bruised Gabi confidently says that he does, and that nothing else mattered to him. Chobei becomes satisfied after hearing this from him, and Shion, who's close by, then looks at Narugai and sees that he also has something to lose. Jika then walks up to Isuzu, who wonders if Gabimaru has charmed Sagiri after seeing her wanting to help him. She knows that she swore not to defile her brother's legacy by working with these criminals, so instead she decides to defer and catch up with Shugen when she can. With everyone on board now, Jika prepares to discuss the plan but wishes for Shion to explain it instead, much to his annoyance. While Gabimaru is seemingly distracted, the Iwagakure shinobi ready themselves while remembering a specific shinobi principle. When going for the kill, keep your presence suppressed. No movement. Let it all come as naturally as breathing. Then, as if nothing is out of the ordinary, they all take the opportunity to attack him with throw-in kunai. In the moments before they strike from the shadows, Shion explained to the unaware group that a tandon can only be destroyed by a user with the correct Tao attribute, and Tao restoration will increase the attack potency. Mei then confirms the Tao attributes of everyone who's in the group, and because we know everyone, I'll just go over the ones that we don't know. Jika is Earth here, Kiyomaru with Metal, and Isuzu who has a Water Tao. Wondering if the scruffy dude is anyone you can count on, Yuzuriha questions Sagiri about his skill, to which she also becomes unsure due to the bad rumours about him. These bad rumours, by the way, are that he pawned his blade away so that the one he has now is trash and often gets on the booze with the boys, not completing his assignments. While they're distracted, the Iwagakure shinobi throw their kunai at Gabimaru in an attempt to finish their mission. Randomly though, Jika notices their attack and turns, asking if they really want to go through with this. So you see, even Sagiri has been confused for a while as to why Jika is rank 3, and even asked Shion back in the day. Shion states that taking his personality into account, he's the lowest of lows. It was confirmed that he even sold his sword for some cash, and now only carries around a simple bamboo takamitsu, which is a sign of disrespect to the shogun. However, he's never once been accused of it, due to how his blade cuts like steel. Shion explains that one time while they were on the booze, he told him that he could perceive the truth in all things, and through that manipulate someone's momentum by applying force in certain spots. He claimed that it was something that went beyond just the waves that Shion was able to perceive, and in reality, it's fairly evident that man's aligned himself with some yin or yang as he was able to easily reflect all of the kunai back into the ninja. Also, takamitsu by the way refers to like a bamboo sword carved in the shape of a like wooden katana. It's not the shinai, which is made up of bundled slats, or a bokken, which is usually made of heavier wood and sometimes referred to as like a bakuto. The word takimitsu can also be used as a pejorative for a cheap, dull-edged blade. So pretty much, everyone thinks he has an ass blade, but turns out man's cracked. With everyone stunned at just what happened, Narugai becomes confused because she thought the shinobi were on their side, but is told by Jika that he knew the shinobi were only pretending to be allies to complete their main objective of taking Gabi out. Jika confesses that he didn't know whether to side with the Iwagakure or Gabimaru, but after seeing Gabi, decided to stick with him, thinking that they were somewhat alike, although Gabimaru disagrees. So, you see, Jika, he got a few ladies, and that's why he thinks him and Gabi are kinda similar. Yuzuriha becomes convinced of Jika's abilities, but still finds herself unable to get a good read on him. As the group then decide to take possession of the shinobi's equipment, Sagiri finds herself conflicted, thinking that they have to start all over with this insane situation, and knowing that even if they succeed, they're all doomed to slaughter each other at the end. Gabimaru though disagrees, as he believes there are a few differences compared to how they started, and while looking at just how much everyone has changed, Yuzuriha agrees with this illogical thinking of his, as that's when he tends to be right. And damn, everyone looks so damn fire with these new fits on, especially Chobe. Dude looks like so demonic with that mask, it's actually so clean. So anyway, back to the story. Everyone's pairings have pretty much stayed the same, except this time, instead of being with Yuzuriha, Gabi is with Sagiri since her wood dao will help his fire, and Yuzuriha stays with Mei to figure out the exact locations of each tandon, and finally, Big G will team up with Jika to help boost his earth dao. Then, with everyone well equipped and paired up, the group set off to destroy each of the tandons. Falling into a memory about the Tensen though, Zujin remembers Rien's explanation on the right of just consumption, and giggles at his poor drawings. Jufa notices their smirk and reprimands him, to which the youngling apologizes but remarks that he can't stand the way Jufa picks on them. The Tensen knows that this is all for Daofa's sake, but finds it annoying that he's always on the edge trying to protect them. Thinking on each Tensen more, Zujin goes over all of the good and bad qualities of them, and how at heart they're truly nice people. Then remembering how they must work hard so they don't fail like last time, large white orbs begin appearing in front of her, making her think that she needs to collect them all to complete the rite of just consumption. Back in reality though, the amalgamation of Zujin's Banko begins grabbing at the surroundings, doing its best to gather as many different types of Dao. Having made their way to the Shuetsu temple, Kyo and Isuzu comfortably destroy a bunch of random creatures protecting the entrance. Isuzu starts to notice that she is getting exhausted from staying too long in the area, and finally realizes that this is why they had to ally with the criminals. Hearing her statement, and while taking out a few insects, Kiyomaru tells Isuzu to not doubt Shugen's orders, as he was the only one who ever believed in them. Shugen never judged them from coming from an offshoot dojo, or because they were young. He trained everyone the same, no matter what. After remembering the respect Shugen showed towards him, Kiyomaru reminds her of how he stood up for her in the past and was even the person who got her a teaching role. Isuzu thanks Kiyomaru for reminding her about her loyalty towards Shugen, and remembers the time Shugen pointed out the beauty and the colour of her skin. Having cut their way through the overgrowth now outside of the palace, Isuzu breaks the door open, rushes in, and tells herself that Shugen is in the right. Standing there inside of the Shuetsu temple, the duo finally confront one of Zujin's tandons. After arriving at the Banko's Earth Tandon, Shion tells Narugai to stay back as he defends against the monsters approaching them, but quickly realizes that he's nearing his limits. They then hear the sound of the conch from Yuzuriha, signaling that everyone has reached their respective tandons and can begin to destroy them. Seeing as how the tandon is too high up for his sword to reach, Shion imbues Narugai's sword with his strength and Dao and throws it towards the tandon, but unfortunately it only leaves a shallow cut. In her own dark world, Zujin feels something attack her hand, but can't seem to figure out what it is. Reaching forth, trying to grab a ball of Dao, it's shown that in reality, she is controlling monsters which are about to grab the duo. Shion yells out to Narugai to stay behind him until the next sound of the horn, since her inability to use Dao puts her in danger. Wanting to speak up, Naruko remembers all of the times Shion told her to stay back as he fought alone, and how he relinquished his status as the Yamada in front of Kiyomaru in order to become her guardian. He himself knows that it's due to the era that he's currently in and has no hopes of changing any of the laws around her fate. However, a man can change himself, and that's why he decided to leave the Yamada clan, because like the legend he is, he couldn't condone the execution of an innocent person. Naruko asks Shion if he meant what he said during that time, to which he answers yes. After saying that she was happy to hear him state that, Naruko rushes in to attack the monster herself. She already knows that it's dangerous and remembers the reasons as to why she cannot perceive Tao. So, you see in her clan they don't believe things that cannot be touched or seen. However, after thinking about what can't be seen and remembering the feelings she had towards Tensa, manages to awaken this ability and breaks forth into the reality of gods. Having cut down a bunch of fodder creatures with his new technique, she tells Shion that she needs to use her own strength to survive and asks that he become her partner instead of a guardian. With a smile on his face, Shion states that his eyes have clearly deceived him, and because his body can't take too much more, asks that she take the lead until the next sound of the horn rings out. Agreeing, Naruko rushes forth and takes the lead. Still unable to see themselves, Zujin becomes furious at the random damage she keeps taking and makes the Earth Tandon sprout multiple bodies of Mudan, much to Shion and Narugo's shock. While at the Wood Tandon, Chobe and Toma find themselves confronted by clones of Daofa that have emerged from the Tandon, leading them to believe that the same is happening at every other Tandon that corresponds with the Dao attributes of that specific Tensen. The brothers then begin to ponder on whether they should make the choice of escaping with the other survivors or act on Jika's secret plan of eliminating Shugen in order for him to make a false report to the Shogun that they had died. So, I've actually held off from saying this a little bit earlier on because I wanted to, but you see our friendly neighborhood Jika right here is actually what I consider to be a first generation Yakuza. We know for a fact that samurai over time did indeed take the role throughout this period of Japan, as with no war they took different routes of occupation. Why he wants everyone gone also is for the fact that man wants to be the next leader of the clan, and doing that would be perfect for him. He wants to put this world behind him for one of luxury instead. Plus, he also drops the bomb that if Shion and Sagiri end up surviving, the bandits can take them down if they please, but that's just a maybe as well. After the clones partially transform into their Kishikai state, Chobe prepares to fight back, but feels his body suffering from the Banko's effects on his Dao. He also senses that Toma is gradually suffering from the Dao particles in the air and tries to think of a logical plan going forward. He knows that it's pretty much impossible to take on both the Daofa army and destroy the Tandon, plus they've got no time to do the restore glitch effect. Telling himself to break apart once more, he knows that he's just got to do it. Originally, it was his plan to slam back the Elixir with his brother, but now he's leaving everything up to him without a single worry at all, as he knows he'll win. Watching his brother run ahead of him, Chobe pushes himself forth and forces vines out of his back and all sides that destroy everything around him. Meanwhile, Gabimaru and Sagiri are approached by Shija, who has comfortably taken out all of the Gufar clones. Flashing back to the moment where Gabimaru and Sagiri are confronted by the Gufar clones themselves, Shija comes in and quickly disposes of them all. As the dust begins to fade, it's obvious that she's extremely delighted to reunite with Gabimaru. Gabi then takes the time to talk to Shija due to knowing that the shinobi is unpredictable. However, after hearing the sound of the conch, Sagiri reminds him that they are running out of time and must either have Shija cooperate with them or take them on as an enemy. Gabimaru tells Sagiri that he can't afford to fight Shija with the current state he's in, prompting Sagiri to try and perform Dao restoration on him. Seeing this, and while calling her a wench, Shija darts in behind the two and prepares to take out Sagiri, only to cease their assault in an instant after being ordered by Gabimaru to wait. Hearing him out, Gabimaru just asks her to help as he's in great need of her strength. With Shija having multiple personalities, it's hard to know which way she'll react here. Turns out though, that she's been waiting months to hear those words. A battle in her mind between helping the chief or following her heart. Happily, she agrees to help Gabimaru, but only in order to truly resurrect his true self. In a sense, she will dedicate her existence to the soul revival of history's strongest Gabimaru the Hollow. As Shija rushes in to attack, and despite his previous injuries, Gabimaru tells Sagiri to take down the regenerated Gufar clones behind them while he handles fighting against Shija. Shija first starts off their attack by using Ninpo Hairforge to throw multiple kunai at Gabimaru. While dodging them, Shija then uses the opening to use Ninpo Flash Hand to push him backwards. Gabimaru dashes out of the way of a kunai and fights her in close quarters combat, with the two using a multitude of technical techniques to try and get the upper hand on one another. Simultaneously, both of them end their initial clash by using Ninpo Fire Monk to create a massive explosion. Knowing that Shija knows more like ninjutsu than him, Gabimaru speculates that continuing to fight with taijutsu is more effective. However, Shija literally word for word quotes what Gabimaru was thinking and tells him that they are aware of every move he makes, as they after all spent so much time observing him. Despite this, and as the two begin fighting once more, Gabimaru tells Shija that they are also able to read their actions with the help of Dao. He then purposefully takes a kick to the navel in an attempt to send himself towards the Banko's tendon and destroy it, but ends up only destroying the statue beneath it. Shija somehow sees through him and could tell from the very start of their fight that he has been protecting Sagiri, who they refer to as the Hag. They then start to wonder if Gabimaru's current state is because of the Hag's presence, and as she manages to get the upper hand, slamming Gabimaru into the ground, becomes saddened after seeing just how much his body is suffering from the weakened Dao regeneration. Picking up his face and staring into his eyes, she finds it truly heartbreaking to see that her love lost his deadly ferocity and instead chose to protect others. She then realizes in anger that Sagiri is with Gabimaru to perform Dao restoration and jumps towards her direction in disgust. Gabimaru yells out to Sagiri to run, however Sagiri refuses, stating that she's had enough, she won't stand being called a hag anymore and prepares to face Shija alone. Knowing that their ninja isn't an immortal, Sagiri uses her Dao sensory to anticipate Shija's attack, but is unable to react in time as in an instant she appears before her and slams her into the ground. Having picked up a special bag earlier, Sagiri pulls it out, causing the female ninja to quickly dart back and ask why she is allied with Gabimaru despite her job. Sagiri explains that yes, once upon a time she lived to a strict code, but this is no longer that case. As an era begins to shift, it's almost possible to sympathize with anyone, not just Gabimaru, but the Tensen and even Iwagakure ninja. After hearing this statement, Shija uses her Ninpo knotted locks to send her hair through the ground before it springs up, restraining Sagiri, pinning her down. Thinking that Sagiri wants to share a similar experience to herself, she makes her inhale the powder she tossed earlier. So, you see this powder is one that manipulates one's sensation and makes them experience an overwhelming sensation of pain. It's often used in the training of young ninja, which, just like it shows with Shija, usually results in only a few family members surviving. This toxin is known as nerve powder, and all in Iwagakure undergo intensive training with it for 3 days and 3 nights until they acclimate to the pain. As they prepare to give Sagiri another drug, which is called Never Bliss, she explains that it connects with the pleasure section of the brain. She tells her that all in Iwagakure are made to be numb, stripped of their senses, so that the only feeling they have left is one of death. Fear and despair in the face of death are the only distinct sensation those inside the clan feel. Gabimaru first granted her that feeling, and through her encounter with him, she eventually became aware of her own mortality. Yes, and that there is death, which embodies life itself. Death, which comes for all. True fleeting life can only be found in that moment of parting. Yuki back at it with that poetry again, and I had to change things up slightly for the super morbid side of this text right here because of YouTube. But I recommend everyone go and read this passage of text themselves, because Yuki kind of just pops you off with how beautifully he constructs a vivid image with these words inside someone's mind. With his body beginning to suffer and his Dao depleted, as well as Sagiri being unable to combat against Shija, Gabimaru sees that their chances of victory are slowly fading away. The second Gabi asks Gabimaru why he is desperately clinging to life, to which he answers that he desires to live a normal life with his wife. Shija tells Gabi that his wish cannot come to pass since Iwagakure will remain in pursuit of him forever and his wife does not exist. Gabimaru denies the thought though, as he knows it's the typical psychological warfare and tries to buy enough time to recover his Dao and present an opening for Sagiri. Shija, like she's done through the majority of this bout, sees through his shame and pleads to Gabi to come to his senses as they try to explain that his wife and the life he shared with her is false, pure make-believe. Gentetsu focuses on preparing himself to cut down the giant flower in front of him. Beside him, Jika, who really ain't keen to do that much right now, decides to lay down and put his faith in Gentetsu. Gentetsu, who interprets his unfazed behaviour as a test of courage, sits down next to him, wishing to follow along as well, which Jika just found extremely random. He then hears the signal to take action, but is told by Jika that the roots will tell them when the tendons have been destroyed, and when it's the correct time to take out the main plant. Big G questions how he knows this, and Jika explains that he's been able to understand how things move ever since he was young, like how to inflict a cut or exactly where a petal would fall. His motto is one of waiting, as good things are bound to come to those who wait. Gentetsu though then senses that he is up to something but can't really seem to get a read on what his intentions are. Over with the crazy stalker girlfriend, Shija explains to Gabimaru that due to Iwagakure's influence, no matter how hard someone craves a normal life, it's simply unattainable. The chief's daughter is no exception at all. She possesses no emotions and has been merely set up to fake a relationship with him as a way to hide the atrocities he commits. Her smile, tastes, all is a deception crafted to imprison his mind. Cutting off the mental stuff going on right now though, I need to point out how cracked Yuki is again for the 20th time. This here is a representation of Bunraku theatre, which is super dope. The old puppet theatre, except these bodies are the size of actual humans, and the bodies are usually controlled by up to 3 different people. It's just perfect imagery to show how manipulated and controlled Gabby's life has been with his wife. With this in mind though, she begs for Gabby to revert back to his former self and throw away any idea of a normal life. After hearing Shija out, Sagiri awkwardly smiles as she looks up at Gabimaru, standing back up. Like Sagiri suspected, all our boy needed was a confirmation that she does indeed exist. Shija, you kinda messed up there. We know for a fact that his Tao explodes whenever his wife is mentioned, and for him, these feelings are tied to strength and weakness. Due to that, and because of how in Hell's Paradise the dual forces of yin and yang can affect someone's body and mind alike, his body is then shown recovering after his Tao becomes stabilized from the confirmation he received of his wife truly existing. Standing there, Gabimaru remembers the words you imparted to him, that this is the battle we call life, and it's important to preserve a little normalcy at times. Confidently, he tells Shija that he always knew his dream would come at a price, but now he's ready to search for a new, normal life, with her, with you, with his wife by his side. With his body back to normal, Gabimaru boldly states to Shija that they will not have an advantage over him, and will not allow him to get away with this no matter what. This causes Shija to remember their past confrontation with him, when they were children, where he stated the exact same thing: "Get in my way and I'll take you out." Shija, like the mental case she is, then becomes overjoyed with Gabimaru's newfound attitude, screaming that this is indeed perfect. In past memory, Yui explains to Gabimaru how to properly prepare chestnuts. After Gabi questions the point behind it all, Yui tells him that she doesn't quite understand herself. She just wanted to try the normal way, since growing up in Iwa wasn't normal at all. The two then sit down to eat chestnut rice, which Yui says she found to be very delicious and sweet. Gabby though, staring at his plate, just wonders if it really was, since he wouldn't know due to how his sense of taste is dulled. Yu, who's actually sadly in the same situation, then tells him that by saying it out loud, they can at least pretend to be normal. Back in the present now, and during the current battle, Gabimaru says that he has not lost his battle instincts, it's just that the battlefield in general for him has changed, referring to his memories of how he could not understand his wife's struggle before. At first, he never understood why she would do something so random. It just seemed like meaningless drudgery to him. What was the point of food, the normalcy? He could never even figure it out. Looking up into his eyes, Shija figures out that Gabimaru's love has no clear signs of weakness, and in a last-ditch effort, attacks with everything that was taught to them by Gabby. Darting at him, she tries to strike his vitals, but to no avail. Throwing a kick, Gabby effortlessly leans back out of the way before blocking a follow-up strike thrown by her. Jumping back, she remembers the time Gabby told her she'd never be able to master Ascetic Blaze, before pulling her hand up to her face and releasing a huge torrent of flames. After using her own Ascetic Blaze, Shija boosts forth, pushing the flames aside and somehow managing to stab Gabimaru's heart. Nonchalantly though, looking down at his injury, Gabimaru applauds Shija for her adept use of the ability, explaining that if he was still human, that might have just killed him. Now though, and because he's making it home no matter what, he grabs her hand, pulls her in close, and activates Ninpo Ascetic Blaze Full Fire, completely setting the duo alight. After being engulfed by Gabimaru's fire ninjutsu, Shija thinks back over her sad existence. She remembers how everyone had admiration for Gabby, but hers was different, something more. She wonders what it was, what she felt. She thinks about the time she fled from Gabimaru when they were children and questions if the reason was because she feared that she might have died. As time slowly moved forth, Shija caught wind of Gabimaru being married to Yu and tries to mirror her appearance by burning the right side of her face. In reality though, and she's known herself for a while, that the pounding of her heart wasn't born from admiration, nor from dread, but sadly, the time for thinking of that had indeed passed. Having collapsed to the ground with a smile on her face, Shija, with her last bit of strength, creates a large whistle from the hair and signals all of the Iwagakure shinobi. Asking what the signal was for, it's revealed that it was in fact a cleansing ritual, one to clear the path forth for Gabby and the last Ninpo she'll ever use. They also tell him that Yu was indeed alive and awaiting his return. Apparently the chief hadn't actually planned to do anything until after all of the shinobi returned confirming Gabby's death. Then he was gonna deal with his daughter. With her final breath, Shija asks Gabby that if she's ever reborn, in sickness and in health, until death do them part, would he face them once more? To which he answers yes, with a smile on his face. Shija happily thanks Gabimaru for his answer and wishes them luck in his future battles. I'd love to know your thoughts on Shija down in the comment section below. Damn, I thought she was too crazy when she first showed up, but over the short amount of time that she was in the story, I guess right here, her dynamic was really damn cool, and the idea that she was the next Gabby kind of resonated with me, that she had to kill Gabby there if she wanted to take that position. Moving forth now, Sahiri rolls over to Gabby and is told by him that they need to refocus their attention back onto destroying their tandem while it's still regenerating. With everyone around being in the prime position, Yuzuriha sounds off the next signal and all 4 teams simultaneously prepare to destroy the tandems. Over with the big chillers though, Jika begins getting back up on his feet after sensing that the timing is right for him and Gentetsusai to destroy the Banko. Yet, as Big G himself begins to stand up, he states that this thing might be slightly difficult, revealing the titan-sized Banko that had begun taking on a completely new transformation. In preparation to take on the new transform monster, and I absolutely love this part of the story, man, Jiku begins tossing off all his clothing as a way to maintain his spiritual focus, and asks Gentetsusai at the same time for a sword. Gentetsusai finds it odd that he doesn't have a strong enough weapon to cut down the Zujin-fused Banko, but after looking at his surroundings and witnessing bodies of Zujin sprouting out of vines, Gentetsusai chooses to follow with Jika's plan and gives him his sword. As I said, this part is mental right here, boys. This dude, he is him. Using his own special intuition, Jika senses all of the fatally wrong moves that he could make as he walks forth to take out the monster. Eventually, after casually strolling past countless spots where he'd die in an instant, Jika comes to a good position with the right factors like wind and presence around him to cut down the monster. Finding that it is all in sync now, Jika swings Gentetsusai's sword and successfully cuts down the head of the Zujin-fused Banko from a distance, just like he did in the past with the ocean monster. Having watched this unfathomable feat, Gentetsusai becomes astonished and remembers the time that he believed defeating monsters would lead him down the path of legends. Standing in front of him now is exactly the sort of man to go down in history as a god slayer. Thinking on the past some more, he also remembers when Fuchi freed Doshi and refused to explain why. As a baby clone of Zujin approaches him now, Gentetsusai states that he started to understand where Fuchi was coming from, and that fighting monsters in order to give him a thrill in his old age doesn't affect him anymore. In front of him, and having walked across a field of flowers, Jika steps up to the tandem and prepares to destroy it. Gentetsusai tries warning him that if he should proceed, then it might also have an effect on Kabimaru and Chobei since their Dao is connected with the monster. Despite being told this though, Jika ignores the risks and utterly destroys the tandem. With the Zujin fused Banko destroyed, all traces of its remnants slowly start to wilt away. However, Jika and Gentetsusai soon realize that the giant creature is still somehow alive. This is due to it already being morning as warned before by Mei, and now because of that, they must take on the task of destroying the tandem simultaneously again. Chobei sees that the wood tendon is beginning to slowly regenerate from the sun and finds himself too low on stamina to make another attempt at destroying it. Tomi yells out suggesting to Tobei and leaving the monster behind and trying to find a way off the island together instead. In his eyes, there's no reason in dying here, as that would make him no different to their father. Despite his brother's plea, Chobei activates his breakdown state one last time and uses his vines to dig into the wood tendon. He knows he doesn't have the right attribute, but skewering the roots with his vines will allow him to cut off the regeneration to the main body. With only one job left, he chooses to do that exact method with each and every location as he can fully destroy the immortal through that method. His plan ends up becoming a success as everyone around watches Chobei's vines burst through all of the tendons in each location. One last time, our demon bandit says, "Break down and come the hell apart." But not on himself, instead on the immortal Banko, which as a result starts to finally wither away. Having used up his strength, Chobei falls to the ground and hears his brother crying out to him. Falling into a flashback of his own, he remembers all of the times he held Toma as a baby, and how he felt like he could break apart at any second, but still grabbed onto him for dear life. Once realizing that he must protect the little one as his older brother, Chobei, with tears in his eyes, says that he protected him because that's what big brothers do. In the afterlife, Chobei kneels down before his parents and apologizes for the sins he had committed in his life, but was happy to say that he was at least a good brother. A young Chobei then runs to his parents with open arms as his life finally comes to an end. Randomly though, and breaking through the light, he notices a hand reach out to him. After the passing of his older brother, Toma kneels down in total grief for holding on to what seems like a plant-like ovule. Meanwhile, Mei and Yuzuriha run out of the temple while complaining about the foul odour in the air and encounter Gufar as a child, who's holding onto this random basin urn looking thing. Stuck in the corner of my room, help. So, that officially brings us to the very end of the Hōrai arc here with Hell's Paradise. Honestly, this is probably the best arc throughout the series so far, just because it has the climax and the culmination of pretty much like all of the fights that we've wanted to see. You know, Shion finally getting his main fight against the Tensen and all that kind of jazz. But kind of what I want to talk about here is the massive amount of deaths that we did see throughout this part of the arc. Like, we had Fuchi and Chobei from the main group, which is just insane to think that they actually departed from our group. Like I never expected when I first started reading through the series that Chobei would actually pass on. Like, the hints were there earlier on, but I never ever actually picked up on them. Out of the Tensen, I'm pretty sure we've lost Rien, Jufar, Daofar, and Zujin, which, you know, turned into the amalgamation there at the very end, but ended up, you know, dying along with Chobei and stuff. Obviously, we've still got Gufar, who's, you know, holding the pot, Mei, who's big chillin' with the group still in or big chillin' with Yuzuriha right now, and then obviously, you know, the one and only Rien, which is over on the boat trying to sail it to the mainland, doing their best to, you know, subdue all the fires and everything. And that there is what we're going to be going over in the final arc, in the next video, which is a lot shorter than this one, so I should be able to get it out in like a week or two. The reason this has taken me a lot longer than usual is that I've just had a lot of like family stuff going on in general. Like, I don't want to get into too many details, but pretty much turns out I've actually got a tear on the back of my eye, or like on the back of my retina, and it's been extremely hard for me to even concentrate on kind of like words. I can't look at my scripts and read these words that I used to be able to read perfectly fine, and it's kind of got a little bit annoying, as you could imagine. And to add to that as well, I've gone and had, you know, like my wisdom teeth come through for the past like 3 to 5 months now, so that there has just been adding an extra level of like stress and anxiety to everything, and for some reason it's been piling on to me more than it usually would. So, you know, it's taken me a little bit longer to get this video out just because I had so much stuff going on, and not even to mention that mum's going in and out of the hospital right now as well. So there's just a lot going on in life, and I hope you all understand that sometimes it's, you know, I love to edit, but it's, you know, I've got to put that aside and look after myself at the end of the day, and look after, you know, like my mum, she's getting older. And but yeah, like on a funny note though, the way I did end up like ruining my eye and getting these gangster glasses, like look at these, like I can't really actually see the camera right now because it's cool blurry. They're only good for like reading close up and all that kind of jazz. But the reason I messed up my eye was I was playing freaking like Harry, you know, when like they walk back and forth and they do that whole thing where they stand back to front and then they walk like to the end of the platforms in Harry Potter, and then they do that like boom. Well, here in New Zealand, we have like these Roman candles, which are big long fireworks like this. And I decided that it would be a great idea for me to, you know, reenact the scene from Harry Potter with one of my mates while we were drinking on like a 21st or a 22nd birthday of like another good friend of ours. And right at the very start of the night, I suffered a firework straight to my eye, and it left me, I literally the entire night I was blinded and I couldn't even see anything or understand. I can't even remember that night at all. Like, it's a complete blank in my vision. But yeah, that firework left me partially blinded in this eye right here. And over time, it's gotten slowly, like, gradually worse, I guess you could say, with the level of blurriness that is coming, or like, you know, moving over my eye and whatnot. And that just turns out to be because my retina's teared. But yeah, obviously pushing that all aside for now, because I do need to end the video. It's been far too long that we've been sitting here. Of course, go and check out Swipe mouse pads, and obviously join the Discord down below, or like message me on Twitter and let me know what your setups look like once you have got your mouse pads. I'd love to actually know, because they're just so clean and they're so nice. So like, honestly, I do recommend it. Like, I don't really do sponsors that much anymore because I don't want to push some shitty old mobile game. So go and actually like check them out. They're a really, really proper good mouse pad, and I'm not going to be using any other mouse pad apart from Swipe from now on, most likely, because they're freaking dope. But anyway, enough of that. Subscribe if you are new around here, and push this video to 5k likes so that I know you all want the last part in this series. But for now, it's been your professional degenerate Diavolo, and I will see you all in a bit. Bye.